We're going to give it a moment and let everyone join. Thank you all for your patience. We had some technical difficulties. Okay. As a reminder, please mute yourself unless you are testifying before the board. Good afternoon. This is a hearing before the Boston Cannabis Board. Today is September 15th, 2021. Today's hearing is being conducted pursuant to certain temporary amendments to the open meeting law. This is what allows us to meet virtually. The hearing is being recorded and will be posted on the City of Boston's website. Before I review some procedural matters, I will introduce Chairwoman Kathleen Joyce.
Thank you, Jasmine, and thank you everyone for your patience with us as we got up and going today. I'm Kathleen Joyce, I'm Chair of the Boston Cannabis. I'm pleased to be joined today by Commissioner Lisa Holmes, Commissioner John Smith, and Commissioner Alejandro St. We are not joined today by Commissioner Darlene Lombos. And I just wanted to thank Jasmine for taking the lead on today's hearing. Go ahead, Jasmine.
Okay. Thank you, Chairwoman Joyce. I will read each item into the record in the order they appear on the agenda. I will ask who is present on behalf of each applicant. The first three matters are requests for changes, so they will have 5 minutes each to present. The remaining items will have 10 minutes to present to the BCB, followed by questions from the chairwoman and commissioners. We will then take public testimony, beginning with elected officials and representatives of elected officials, followed by the general public. If you wish to testify, please sign up via the link that I will put in the chat. If you have already signed up via the chat link, you do not have to do it again. I will call you when we get to that portion of the hearing, or you can use the chat function to request to testify. Please wait until the matter you want to speak for is called before you request to testify. Do not use the chat to give testimony. It will not be considered. Please state your full name, address, and affiliation, if any. Testimony will be limited to 2 minutes, at which time you will be muted. Additional testimony may be submitted in writing to cannabisboard@boston.gov, and the record will remain open until Tuesday, September 21st at 5 p.m. The BCB does not give more weight to spoken testimony than it does written. So now we'll call the first matter, which is Patriot Care Corporation, license premise at 21 Milk Street downtown. They have a co-located marijuana retail and marijuana license establishment. Their request is to change the doing business as name to Cannabis and to remove conditions 2 and 3 on their license, which states licensee will not sell pre-rolled cannabis products and licensee will require a minimum purchase of $35. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Lawrence Estacaro, attorney.
Okay. So, oh, go ahead, sorry.
I'm sorry. And Jeff Rowe, Director of Operations in Massachusetts.
Perfect. So as previously said, you'll have 5 minutes. I will give you a warning at the 2-minute mark and 1-minute mark. You may share your screen and begin your presentation.
Dan, are you gonna put the slides up there? Great, okay. For the record, Lawrence Estacaro, 10 Post.
Larry, your volume went out. Can anyone else hear him? I can't.
Larry either.
Can't.
I heard the beginning of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no one can hear.
Sometimes if your computer's been connected to like a headset or an AirPod and it's not disconnected, it'll automatically link to that. Larry, so if that, you want to check your Bluetooth.
Larry, you're still on mute.
Should we take Larry's piece?
Yeah, if one of you want to begin and he can hop on if he.
Okay. I mean, I can recite as far as what Larry was going to say, and for the record, Larry Estacara, 10 Post Office Square, representing Patriot Care, known as Cannabis. We appear before you today with respect to the premises at 1921 Milk Street, where the proponent has operated a medical dispensary for over 5 years and an adult use dispensary more recently. Throughout those years, we have had ongoing discussions with the bid, with our abutters, with Councillor Flynn, and with others. We have had community meetings, and we have fulfilled all of our obligations. We approached the board pursuant to the board's jurisdiction with respect to the conditions attached to our license. We seek conditions which are comparable to those of other licensees in the downtown area. The slides which have been presented to the board are self-explanatory. And then he goes on to say that I will then take over and fulfill the next couple of minutes.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. Sorry. So can you all hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. So as I said, my name is Jeff Rowe. I'm the Director of Operations for Patriot Care, Massachusetts. Just a little bit about the operations. I'm happy to say that things are going extremely well in Boston. We recently completed a beautiful remodel of our 2-floor operation, and our customers, patients, and our associates are all enjoying that very much. We've started operations in Boston in 2016, and for the past 5 years have run the business without a single problem. In addition, we've added adult use, as I think you're aware, which started on August 10th. And here again, behind a very detailed and concise operational plan, we are executing flawlessly. Our commitment to have 0 lines and every customer required to make an appointment has been executed and will continue to be executed. And then lastly, I'm just very happy to say that we've been very good corporate citizens over the years, and we're looking forward to continuing that for the unforeseen future. And that is where I will pause.
Okay, is there anyone else who wants to testify as part of your group?
That is all.
Okay.
If you can share your screen.
Thank you very much. Sorry, I lost my lights there too. There we go.
That's okay. So now we would move to questions from the chairwoman and commissioners. Chairwoman Joyce, do you have any questions?
I do. I just want to confirm, you were approved for retail when by this board?
I'm sorry, approved for
Retail use.
retail use or the adult use?
Adult use, yeah.
Yeah, that was approved, on August 10th when we commenced operation.
Okay, so you've only been operating for about a month.
That is
for adult use.
That is
And
correct.
already coming back to us for these 2 changes. That the first one is you'll not sell pre-rolled cannabis products, and you'll not require a minimum purchase of $35, right?
Correct.
And I remember the public hearing on this. This was pretty, this was the crux of a lot of the discussion, a lot of the support and opposition focused on not wanting to sell what I would call singles in this particular neighborhood and requiring a minimum purchase. I remember this being something we discussed in depth. So, what makes you, other than competition, what makes you want us to remove this condition?
Well, I think first, and just to clear, we started adult use about a month ago, but the approval has been there for the better part of 1 year that we've been going through the process. I think one of the, as we look at this, it's more so than, there is the competitive nature of that, of course, but it's also in reference to, I think it's been about a year that the BCB made changes, and we just want to be fair and in line with others that have been allowed into our buffer zone that don't have any of these restrictions. And that's more of our ask than anything, is just to be fair with the others that have been allowed in.
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, your first host community agreement pre-exists this board, right?
I'm fairly
medical.
sure. Yeah.
And that host community agreement, if I'm not mistaken, said you would never come back to this board and ask for retail sales, right? So now you did come back to the board and ask for retail sales, granted it with conditions, and you've been open for less, and now you want us to remove some of those conditions. Two of them, which I think go to the reason that the neighborhood association actually went along with allowing the retail sales.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
I completely understand your stance, and I hope you can understand ours. Again, we're watching others be let in to our buffer zone with zero restrictions whatsoever. We're not even asking for the lifting of all restrictions, whereas others have none. We are asking for a minimal of what we're asking for, and it's not the singles, it's multi-packs. So I completely understand your stance. I hope you can understand ours.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yep,
we look
thank
at
you.
before us independently. We don't compare one to the other. And each application for us comes with certain circumstances that we take into consideration. We'll take this into consideration as well. I don't have any other questions for the applicant. Jasmine, do any of the other commissioners? I can't see this. I only see one person at a time. You're on mute, Jasmine.
Sorry.
If possible, I would like to ask Mr. Rowe, who has a different condition than him in his buffer zone? Because if I'm remembering correctly, I don't think we've given anybody in that area any exceptions from that same condition.
I think as I look at the presentation that we had up, we've got Verdant, and we have Rasta Roots that are closest, and then we also have Sierra and Ascend.
Jeff, if I might weigh in here.
Sure.
The changes that we're asking for are consistent with what the BCB has granted to Verdant over on 150 State Street, which is within our buffer. Rasta Roots has no, as granted by the BCB, has no conditions at all set upon their the BCB vote. So those are the two who are within our buffer and who have currently a different set of conditions than we have now.
I think we have to review. I have some recollection of those already being part of their application. So I think it would be good for us to go and review that. Commissioner, was that your only question? Commissioner Holmes? Yeah.
Yes, and I just went back and looked at my note for Verdant, and they have the same conditions. They're not allowed to sell singles.
Yeah.
We're not asking to sell singles. We're asking for permission to sell multi-packs. They're allowed to sell pre-rolls, just not individual pre-rolls. And we're not seeking to sell individual pre-rolls either.
Okay. In terms of the $35 minimum, has there been do you have any data showing that there's been a certain number of people who have come in wanting to spend less than 35 and have left because they cannot?
I think with that, we don't have written analysis prepared for today. We can certainly pull that information.
Yeah.
And there are certainly people that come in that would like to buy something that is under $35. Whether they have left or not, I'm hoping they haven't, because part of what we do with great customer service is our ability to educate and work with people and see and offer what else they might want or need. However, I can't say either way if people have left or not, but I'm sure there have been some instances that people have left because they weren't able and didn't want to hit the minimum.
And what percentage of your products are under $35?
It's I would have to say about 25 to 30%.
Okay. Okay.
Is that all your question, Commissioner?
Thank you.
Commissioner Smith, do you have any questions?
Yeah, in the same vein. So you're seeing this as a competitive thing, right? In terms of how do you see that this makes you more competitive if people have similar restrictions?
Well, I think what we're saying is that part of why we're before you with this is because we're seeing competitors that do not have the same restrictions. So we're seeing it as a disadvantage because we have the, excuse me, these restrictions. Pre-roll packages for many businesses that you'd see, if not all, is a fairly high percentage of what customers are looking for. We are making those sales on the medical side today, which is just one flight up from our adult use side. And as I said, we've been operating since 2016. We have never had an issue. In addition to that, we take our security incredibly serious. We're actually going through a process now where we're reevaluating our security guards, what they do, how they do it. We're doing a walkthrough Friday with another company. And I can tell you myself and our team take what we do very serious, that we are not allowing anything to happen in and around our location. But as I said, we're making these sales today, and we have competitors coming in that will have this ability. And just through fairness, we feel that we should have the same restrictions as
And
them.
did you feel, thank you for that answer. Did
Yeah.
you feel initially when you came before us that these restrictions were too much, or because you were approved under those restrictions?
Right. And I can certainly, in my 9+ months, I can turn that over to some others that are with me that could probably answer that a little bit better. I think at the time, 5 years ago, it probably was a little bit different. However, the industry has grown greatly in that time. And as we all know, in sales or retail or just business, I'm sorry, my lights keep, we go through changes. And with that, we're looking at some of those changes that,
Jeff, let me weigh in here for a second. I think part of our thinking has been the BCP is a fairly new regulatory body, and it seems that by virtue of us going earlier than many other applicants, that the approach and the consensus of the BCB has evolved. And when we see groups within our buffer who are able to have the same conditions that we're asking for now, part of our thinking in coming back to the board has been that the board, as it's gone through its process month after month, has a different knowledge base and a different set of understanding than they might have a year ago. Obviously, it's the board's decision to make, but part of the reason that we thought it was appropriate to come back and have a community meeting and ask for these changes is that the behavior of the board as it's grown and developed is different than it was in August and September of 2020.
I have a follow-up question when the time is right, Jasmine.
Go ahead, Commissioner Joyce. Thank you.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I can't see the rest of the people on the screen, but did Patriot Care go back and enter into some more conversations with the downtown bid about the removal of these two conditions? Because these conditions came to us from the bid.
We actually have Rose from the bid on the line that would, I'm sure she wants to speak. She signed up to testify. Do you want her to testify now or?
Just wanted to see if, did they go back to them and talk to them?
We did.
Okay. That's good.
Rose is on, oh, she was unmuted.
Okay, but we can go to public testimony unless the commissioners have other questions. I just wanted to know.
Okay, do any other commissioners have any follow-up questions? Or we can move to public testimony? Okay, so we'll move to public testimony, starting with elected officials or representatives of elected officials.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. Lisa High with the Mayor's Office of Neighbor Services. Our office holding a meeting on August 5th, 2021. The Mayor's Office would like to go on record in support. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam of the Chair, members of the board. Ana Calderon from Councilor Flink's office. The councilor would like to go on record in support. Thank you.
Now we will move to public testimony. I will start with those of you that signed up in the chat.
Excuse me, Jasmine? What
Yeah.
did Councilor Flynn, I couldn't hear her.
Oh, they said they're in support.
Okay, thank you.
So we have Rose Boardman.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, commissioners, for allowing us the chance to speak. My name is Rose Boardman. I work for the Downtown Boston Business Improvement District, and I am representing the organization today. We are opposed to these license changes, and that is what we told Patriot Care in person when they came to us and to talk to us about their effort to change these, change the conditions of the license. You know, they've only been open for a month. The competitor that they refer to, I don't know when they'll be open, but that's not really even on the horizon. We're certainly open to looking at business metrics and actual data in the future. But the origin of this is that the city and Patriot Care came to us because they had a host community agreement where they promised not to sell recreational or adult use cannabis products, and they wanted to be released from that. We formed a board committee. The board committee looked at that issue, said we'd be willing to support that under these conditions. We communicated those conditions to the board. We were very appreciative that you listened to us and that you heard us and incorporated those into the license. And so nothing has really changed for us. You know, the conditions reflect the bid's special interest in the health and safety of residents, students, employers, employees, and visitors who live and work and travel through the district every day. The restriction on pre-rolled products is due to our ongoing concern with public smoking of marijuana. And the minimum purchase amount is ordered to discourage quick, small-scale impulse buying, particularly by students and vulnerable members of the public. So again, for us, nothing has changed. We still think the conditions are worth trying. We don't think they've been tried very much. There's only been a month's worth of adult use sales. And in fact, none of these competitors are open, nor will they expect to be open in the next year or so. Thank you very much for your time. We also did submit written testimony that's lengthier than this.
Yeah, it was received. Does anybody else wish to testify in support or opposition of this proposal? Seeing none, the board will take this matter into advisement.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we will move to item 2. The licensee is New Dia LLC. The license premise is at 48 to 62 Brookline Ave, the Fenway Kenmore area. They have a recreational cannabis dispensary license. The request is to change the entity name from New Dia LLC to New Dia Fenway LLC. No changes to operational control. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Good afternoon, Dennis Quilty, attorney representing the licensee. And with us today is Ross Bradshaw, who's the principal of the applicant entity. Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners, and Ms. Nguyen for our opportunity to come before you today. We have a slide presentation, which may or may not be necessary. The literal only change is that which Ms. Nguyen just read into the record, which is the name change of the corporate entity from New Dia LLC to New Dia Fenway LLC. And it is merely an attempt on behalf of ownership to differentiate this location from a previously licensed location in Worcester, Massachusetts, which was is under the same name. So in order to have no confusion over the two sites, the request is to add the word Fenway, delineating our location to the license. Mr. Bradshaw and his family and ownership team remain exactly the same. There are no changes whatsoever being requested. We have a few slides to that effect if you'd like to see them, or Mr. Bradshaw could certainly answer any questions, or I may answer any questions that the commissioners may have.
I'm just curious, like, what kind of confusion was there? I know the name is the same, but were people driving, I don't understand, Worcester and Boston for each other?
Well, less confusion, more of segregating the two different locations. So we have a location in Worcester and we want to separate that from a location in Boston. So it's simply by changing the entity name, they'll be considered two different entities.
Okay. And just for the record, there is no ownership changes and no operational changes?
Correct.
I don't have any questions.
Commissioner Holmes, do you have any questions? Commissioner St.
So you have the separate LLCs, there's no ownership change in Boston. Is there a desire to do any kind of ownership change in Worcester?
Yes, there will be.
Okay.
That won't affect Boston.
No, and so would you both, so I imagine that you've now created a separate LLC where both will report to the same LLC?
Nope, so they'll remain separate, only two.
Okay, thank
Two
you.
separate LLCs. Okay.
Commissioner Smith?
No, thank you. Question was answered.
We will begin with public testimony, beginning with elected officials or representatives of elected officials. Not seeing one, and no one has signed up in the chat. Is anyone else here to speak in opposition or support of this proposal? Seeing none, the board will take this matter under advisement.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Next matter we have is 617 Therapeutic Healthcare, Inc. The license premise is at 144 Bowden Street, Dorchester. They have a recreational cannabis dispensary license. The request is for an alteration of premise to expand into the adjacent space within the same continuous building. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Pete D'Agostino.
You may share your screen and begin your presentation.
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Pete D'Agostino on behalf of 617. I'm also joined by Counsel Kyle Wong and the principals, Rich and Tom. Before the board, I have to say I greatly appreciate Ms. Nguyen's transition. It's been absolutely seamless. We had all our information on time, so I want to note she's done a great job. With that being said, this is pretty straightforward. As the board may remember, when we brought this before you for approval, there were really two main concerns that we heard from the neighborhood. One was parking, which still remains a challenge in that area, but the other one was outdoor queuing because our space was very small. So let me just kind of show you what we had and what we have and why we think this addresses the neighbors' concerns. So this is the existing location. Previously, we were in the middle here where the gate is pulled down. The new proposal would extend us from where this gate is located to the end of the building. So it's a pretty good expansion of space. This restaurant, unfortunately, did not survive COVID. They subsequently went out of business. In recognition of the neighbors' comments and their concerns around outdoor queuing, we entered into discussions with the landlord who owns the whole building and were able to negotiate moving into this space. So the original proposal before the board ended on this wall right here on the left-hand side that you see my cursor on, and then it went over to the right side here. So we just had this space in the middle, which was the area I just highlighted before. Under the new proposal, and the old proposal ended here, just to give you a visual reference. Under the new proposal, taking over the restaurant space would expand into this area here. So this really does three pretty substantial things. Probably most importantly, this allows us to have an employee break area, which we didn't previously have. So it's a much better working environment for employees. If you look back at our initial presentation, the employee area was 49 square feet. So we were able to add in a little kitchenette and an employee break area. So we're really excited about being able to offer that for the employees. Additionally, we had about 200 square feet of retail space, which was the neighbors' concerns. We now have more than double that. So we think this really this will really address the concern of not having outdoor queuing. So this was really in direct response to that concern from the neighbors. So we're excited about the change and the opportunity. We wanted to present this to the board. And then just as a matter of, before I turn it back over to the chair, we have reached out to ONS, to Councilor Campbell's office, to Greater Bowdoin Geneva Neighborhood Association, Meeting House Hill Association, Cape Verdean Community Association, and Meeting House Hill, all the neighborhood associations. Everyone had a very favorable, positive response to this expansion because it directly addressed some of the concerns that they had previously raised. So with that, Madam Chair, I'll turn it over for any questions the board may have.
I don't have any questions, but I reserve my right if I have any questions after the public testimony.
Commissioner Holmes? No. Commissioner Sankian?
Yes, thank you. In terms of, first, I appreciate you responding to the neighborhood's concerns, and it's great that this opportunity came up to do that. In terms of financing, however, I imagine that it'll be a significant more cost to expand out into this space, and I don't have your original application before me. How does this impact your financing, and do you feel like you have reason to believe you have the capital for this extensive rehabilitation?
Yeah, we absolutely do. As a matter of fact, Madam Commissioner, we've already, as you see, we've already done the architectural work. The engineering work has already begun. ZBA did approve this entire building for the use. So we're pretty far down the road from the perspective of whether or not we think we can do it. And we wanted to get there before we came before the board. We didn't want to be guessing when we asked you to do it and then have to come back and say, oops, we couldn't do it. So we're comfortable with where we are in the process. Assuming the board's comfortable with us making the change, we would be ready to execute against this very quickly.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Smith?
No, I do not. Thank you.
Okay.
Jasmine, I do.
Okay, Commissioner Holmes?
Mr. D'Agostino, did you have to go back and have any more meetings with the community? When you put this new proposal together, have you gone back and had community meetings to talk about this?
We spoke to all of the community groups. We did not do a community outreach meeting in the form of like a CCC meeting, if you will. But we did speak with each of the community groups and the counselor's office and ONS. This is a very favorable move for the neighborhood. One, a restaurant unfortunately did go out of business, but it leaves the space not being vacant, which I think the neighborhood overall was glad to see. And this is something that they really wanted to see, was how could we address. You remember when we met last time, we talked about virtual queuing and ordering ahead and things like that to address the line. This is just another way to really address that. And so it was very favorably received. And of course, we flyered the neighborhood and did all those things that we're supposed to do. So I think all in all, the feedback for us has been very positive. So we're excited about it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Chairwoman Joyce, any questions?
No, I have questions. Thank you.
We will begin with public testimony, beginning with elected officials or representatives of elected officials.
Hi, good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. The mayor's office would like to go on record in support for this proposal. All concerns were addressed by abutters, and the Greater Bowdoin Geneva Civic Association voted to support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. I don't see anyone that signed up to speak in the chat or online. So with that being said, the board will take this matter under advisement.
Thank you, ma'am.
So the next item we have is Team Green LLC. The proposed license is at 1441 Tremont Street, Mission Hill. They're applying for a recreational cannabis dispensary license. The proposed hours of operation is Sunday through Thursday, 12 to 8 p.m. and Friday and Saturday, 12 to 10 p.m. This is an equity applicant. The date of initial application was December 22nd, 2020. Date of filing with inspectional services was February 5th, 2021. Date of the community meeting was June 24th, 2021. There was a buffer zone conflict. Before we proceed with the presentation, I will ask Attorney White to testify regarding the equity certification. Attorney White.
Sorry. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, commissioners. I reviewed documentation provided to me from Ms. Verinda Jody Mendoza Pacala on behalf of Team Green, and I was able to determine based on that documentation that she does meet the criteria set forth in the ordinance to be an equity applicant. Ms. Pacala is the 100% beneficiary interest holder of Team Green LLC, which exceeds the 51% ownership interest threshold set forth in the ordinance. She met the following criteria: a person who has resided in the city of Boston for the past 7 years. She submitted extensive copies of utility bills, a recent mortgage statement, and a proof of residency certificate from the City of Boston Elections Department, which all establish that she's been a resident of Boston since at least 2003. The second criteria she met is a person of Black, African-American, Hispanic, Latino, or Asian descent. She has self-identified as Latina and is of Puerto Rican descent. And the final criteria that she met is a person who is certified by the Cannabis Control Commission as an economic empowerment applicant and is a resident of Boston for at least one of the last 3 years. She did submit her certification as an economic empowerment applicant from the CCC. And as aforementioned, she submitted sufficient documentation to establish that she's been a resident of Boston since at least 2003. Are there any questions about the certification?
I have one.
Yes.
Attorney White, I keep going back and forth over the ordinance because I think sometimes you could qualify for one, but then the definition of another, it's a little vague whether it contradicts one of the other criteria. Specifically, the one where it says has resided in Boston for at least the past 7 years. Does that mean they have to currently live in Boston?
No, it does not mean that they have to currently live in Boston.
So they resided in Boston for the last 7 years.
Yes.
I guess I don't know. Does Ms. Mendoza currently live in Boston?
I believe that she is currently living outside of the city of Boston. There was a fire at her home that caused her to move out of the city while the repairs are being done on her home.
Okay,
so she currently is not residing in the city of Boston, but she did submit a mortgage statement for a Boston property, which coincides with the address used for the utility bills that she provided me. And the mortgage statement was dated November 2020.
Okay, so she has resided in Boston for the last 7 years, perhaps for reasons of a fire, doesn't right now, but she was certified by the CCC. Okay, and is a resident of Boston for at least one of the last 3 years. So we were able to cover all those bases. Okay.
So she did meet both residency requirements.
Okay, all right, thank you. I don't have any questions about the equity certification.
Thank you.
All right, seeing no additional questions, we will move to the presentation. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
We are. My name is Brenda Jody Mendoza, and this is my husband, Richie Pena.
Okay. So you will have 10 minutes to give your presentation. I will give you a warning at the 5-minute mark and the 1-minute mark.
Are you guys seeing the screen?
Yes.
All right, cool.
Right. Good afternoon. First of all, we'd like to thank the Boston Cannabis Board and of course, everyone else who is on the call today for taking the time to.
Oh, I can't hear them. Can you guys?
She froze her screen.
Okay. There we go.
Yeah, Jody, your screen froze. So I don't know if you want to start again. I'll restart your time.
Okay. Okay. So good afternoon. Thank you all, and thank you for taking the time to listen to us today. So why are we here? When marijuana was legalized in 2016, it was passed on a social justice platform. So that means that voters wanted to legalize marijuana in part to compensate for the disproportionate harm the war on drugs caused in communities of color. In 2018, we're among the very first, the first group of 8 who received the economic empowerment certification. In 2009, we received a host community agreement for a location on Blue Hill Ave from the city of Boston. 2020, we very happily received a provisional license from the Cannabis Control Commission, but unfortunately, we had to relocate, and now we're going through this process again.
In Mission Hill.
Yes.
So who is the executive team? Just a little bit about us. As you guys know, my wife, Jody Mendoza, she's a longtime Boston resident and small business owner. She opened Mojitos Lounge on Winter Street in 2005. She graduated with an MBA from Boston College that same year. She forgot to mention that she met me on MySpace in 2006. She's been very active in the community, and she served on the board of directors for ROCA, a nonprofit out of Chelsea that believes in giving troubled youth a second chance. My name is Richie Peña. I'm also a longtime Boston resident. I attended Tobin Elementary in the mid-90s, and I graduated from Medicine Park in 2004. 2004. I went to New York in 2006 to pursue my dreams of being in the music industry. And after accomplishing that in 2006 with Don Omar and a song that we produced for him, I came back to Boston in 2007 and I put together the Boston Music Conference to help the local music scene and disadvantaged youth. In 2010, I won a Latin Grammy, and I've also served on the Boston Grammy Committee.
So in order to really understand us, I think it might be helpful to know a little bit more about us. In 2005, as we said, we opened Mojitos on Winter Street. It was downtown Boston's first lounge owned 100% by Latinos. It was very well loved by the community. We still have people asking us on a weekly basis if we'll be coming back. Unfortunately, Downtown Crossing changed a lot, and it went from kind of the mom and pops that used to be there to what you see today, very well developed. And we were forced to relocate Mojitos to Randolph when our lease expired. And we currently operate the largest establishment in the region that caters to communities of color and anyone who loves Latin culture and dancing. Also, this is the, we've been told this is the largest venue owned 100% by a woman. So we are proposing a recreational cannabis dispensary at 1441 Tremont Street. It's about 1,000 square feet on the first floor. We do have access to a finished basement, which could be utilized as a waiting area to avoid a line outside if that were ever to be an issue. If you notice right here, the hours of operation are different than the hours posted on the agenda. We reduced our hours of operation to be in accordance with the Good Neighbor Agreement that we recently signed with the Mission Hill Neighborhood Housing Services. So they wanted us to reduce the hours, and we want to be good neighbors, so we did so. So we're going to go through some of the features later, but of course we have a vault. This is an old checks cashed, so there's metal walls and ceiling, and the interior will not be visible from the street. And that's the architectural plan.
All right. So who are we gonna bring to work at the dispensary? What makes us different from other groups in the city or the state that want to open a dispensary is that we represent a very diverse community. The BCB has identified the communities listed here as the focus for diversity and inclusion. We pledge that 85% or more of our staff will represent these groups. which may sound a little bit ambitious, but we know that it simply represents what has always been the case for us here at Mojitos, because currently we have a percentage of 98.75% of our staff already falls into these categories. So we're confident that we will continue as we have done to provide opportunities and a source of stable income and careers for our community.
So we're going to use our robust community networks, our online presence, and our existing Team Green members to let people know when we're hiring. We're confident, based off the number of applicants who have already expressed extreme interest in joining our team, that we are going, between that and the programs and the wages that we're offering, we're going to have no problem hiring the team. We'll also provide evidence of that in quarterly audits, both to the Boston Cannabis Board and to any neighborhood association that's interested in seeing it.
5-minute warning.
We anticipate between 15 and 22 new jobs, which 85% or more will be Boston residents. All members of Team Green will make a minimum living wage of $15.69 as defined by the City of Boston's Jobs and Living Wage Ordinance. All other factors being equal, preference will be given to members of the LGBTQIA community and veterans. We also will be working with nonprofit VROCA to employ Bostonians with nonviolent cannabis convictions and giving them a second chance.
So why do these awesome people want to work for us? Well, what it really is we know our demographic. We know right now the number one reason why people call out of work is that they don't have childcare. And we've been through it ourselves. It's very difficult. So what we're going to do is we're going to subsidize childcare, and we're going to stay very active in this conversation within the city of Boston. And there's another major factor in employee attendance and just kind of overall mental health is money. Sometimes you don't have the money to go to work. It could be a bill. It could be, you're short on something. And this is something that has proven very popular so far with our employees, and it just comes down to human dignity. So we believe that these microloans are a very powerful incentive along with subsidized childcare. We also have something we don't have too much time to go into today, but we have a micro business incubator, and we really believe that with every step that we take, we need to grab someone's hand and pull them up next to us, and that's our intention. So Boston is, let's talk about the location for a little bit. Boston is a densely populated city. And even if you're really open-minded and even if you're pro-cannabis, I can understand how you might be nervous having a dispensary opening up in your neighborhood. So, but I would ask that you keep in mind that both the T and the bike path are directly adjacent. And Tremont Street, it's a very visible, this section is very visible, it's well lit. And one point on the parking, if you provide parking, people are going to come, they're going to utilize that parking. So what we want to do is we want to exemplify a modern, urban, green, socially responsible business. And although we're sensitive to many of the community concerns, I believe you can see that we were able to get their support, and we were able to do so because we have shown them that, like them, we want Mission Hill to thrive. So there's a few questions that during the course of various meetings we've had to address. So we just want to go through them. We're going to prevent a line by limiting in-person access. We're going to promote pre-ordering during the busy hours and partner with a courier if necessary. Because of our advanced AI-driven ID scanner, Patron Scan, we can enforce good behavior, which I'm going to explain to you how we do that later. But we are intentionally, you're not going to see billboards with Team Green or anything on the highway. We're not trying to attract the suburbs. We are for the community. And on a personal level, we're deeply committed to a greener, sustainable lifestyle, and we bring this commitment to our workplaces. We're going to be very active, we're going to be vocal, and we are going to lead by example to reduce the amount of waste and the environmental footprint of the cannabis industry.
In addition to transit passes, bike racks, and preference to local applicants, we will also provide patrons with green bonuses that will include marketing and samples from local businesses to help boost the local economy. And also offer a fast pass to pre-order and pickup.
Our security procedures are based off of the detailed guidance provided by the Cannabis Control Commission and augmented by our years of experience dealing with crowd control and regulated substances. Our security will be trained on all best practices, and our facility will be under constant surveillance.
Additional security measures, something to note is that everything is tracked from seed to sale, and everything is kept out of sight in a temperature control vault.
So I briefly mentioned Patron Scan, the ID scanner. It has 99% effectiveness in preventing anybody underage, so preventing diversion. It also generates a log of anyone who's entered the premises, and that, but the information is kept 100% private, and it's only accessible to the law enforcement. But when you know that the establishment you're entering has your photo and your information, your ID scanned, that is a great deterrent for anyone who's thinking of loitering or lighting up or anything like that. So this is going to be a significant deterrent, we believe. We'll
Jody,
receive our-
that is your time. If you want to say final, wrap it up.
Well, the last thing I'd like to say is we did sign a good neighbor agreement, and we do have support of the community, and we really appreciate your time, and thank you for this.
Thank you.
We'll begin with questions, beginning with Chairwoman Joyce.
Thank you for your presentation. There's a buffer zone conflict here, and that was not mentioned in your presentation. So I know you did submit a buffer zone statement, but for the record, could you explain for the board why we should consider granting you a license within the buffer zone?
Well, from my understanding that given the way things are set up, there are going to be a number of establishments that will require an exemption from the buffer zone. And that's simply just because of how dense Boston is and the way it's set up. So I believe that we should be one of those people that is granted it for a number of reasons. One, we didn't know that there was another group coming in. We didn't know that they would be ahead of us on the agenda. There were a number of things. I don't want to get into things, but there were times that we were delayed. So aside from the fact that we've been in this process diligently, I've spent more time pursuing this than I did my MBA and more money.
I understand, but I just want to focus your answer on a couple things. This application, we have to separate from the previous application. This application received December 22nd, 2020. So we have heightened level of scrutiny that we apply to these applications to see whether or not we should pierce this buffer zone and allow another license to be within the buffer zone. So explain for the board what your application and what your business plan is and how it is different from the other one and why we should grant another application here. It's not a fairness thing. It's not a competition thing. We don't take that into consideration. But explain for us how you differentiate what you're offering the community than what the other license would be offering the community.
Thank you for clarifying that. Well, one of the things is we are literally we are a mom and pop store, quite literally. We are a store that is able to directly connect to the community. We are, and I don't want to disparage. I don't want to say anything about the other applicants.
Focus on what you're offering for the board.
Yeah. So we are a small business. We are directly, intimately tied to the community. And I believe that by allowing us to open this store, you will be not only, not only will people be able to have a place to purchase marijuana legally, but you are literally exemplifying the concept of equity. We don't have the same tools in our tool basket as other applicants do have. We are a small business. This application from start to finish, this was written by me. So I guess Boston talks a lot about equity, and I would appeal to you to consider this as a perfect way to demonstrate that.
Okay. I don't have any other questions, Jasmine.
Commissioner Holmes?
Yes, good afternoon. Nice presentation. I like all your green incentives, and the fact that you're right next to the T and the bike path, I think is probably good for you for foot traffic. My question would be, have you partnered with a security firm? Have you talked to anybody about what you would do to monitor your outside your establishment as well as inside?
So we have spoken to, he's actually a Randolph Police Department who's been advising us. We have another gentleman who has been advising us from the beginning. He used to reside in Boston, but he was the longtime head of security for the United Nations building in New York. So he tremendous background. So they're going to be advising us on best practices. I also have personally operated a security team for well over 20 years. So I would qualify myself as an expert as well in this matter.
And how will you be training them? How will they be trained? How would you be hiring them? Where would they be coming from?
Well, I will definitely, I would have a lot of very angry employees now if I did not offer these positions to the ones who reside in Boston, which is most of my current employees. So I will be offering those jobs to them. In terms of the actual training, so first you have the hiring process. You bring somebody on board. They also have to go through the responsible vendor training program. That's just CCC protocol. In terms of our personal protocol, I'll tell you what we do now for our security. We hire somebody. We go through the training, which is one-on-one. Then we have them take part in a seminar. This training seminar goes through everything. Primarily, it goes through de-escalation techniques, but we also talk about in the event, if you did have to restrain somebody, how would you do so in a safe manner that doesn't make the situation worse? We even go through role playing. We go through the whole bit so that you're able to really get a good sense of what you're going to be facing. And of course, we have security long-term members who are going to help out, help to train. And after that, then they go on a training shift where they will be able to, to learn under the guidance of somebody else who's an expert. For example, a police officer or somebody who's an advisor in the earliest days.
Thank you for that.
Commissioner Sangian?
Thank you. Just a question about the $100,000 startup cost. Is that product, personnel, and build out?
I believe so. So so far from the wholesale distributors that I've spoken to, they have assured us that we will be able to have financing, so we don't have to pay for the product out front. In terms of the build out, it's a very, very modest. I've had a number of contractors come by. We're not talking about a lot. This is a former checks cashed. I believe that the bulk of that is really going to go into hiring, training, and doing just walkthrough after walkthrough. We are the beneficiaries. We were in Sierra's, Sierra had Sierra Natural is one of the medical and recreational operators in the state, very exceptional one. And I was a beneficiary of a program that they had. So we are going to be able to utilize their capabilities to help us to set up the retail store and also to train people, as well as take advantage of best practices that they've been able to accumulate during actual operation.
Thank you.
Commissioner Smith? Is he frozen? Can you hear us, Commissioner Smith?
Oh, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Oh, hi, Ms. Mendoza. A couple questions. So you're on the main road in Mission Hill, and talk to me about the parking issues. I know you put it in here that you'll promote green, but it is a main street. It is the main street on Mission Hill. So is there any parking that you're thinking about, or?
So to address that directly, no, we do not have a parking. We do not have a shuttle plan in place. We do not have a parking lot that we have contracted to rent. We do not believe that that is in line with the business that we're proposing to put here. I understand there are certain operators that have not only the budget, the wherewithal, everything else to rent an additional parking lot nearby. I believe that Mission Hill, first of all, is very densely populated. There aren't any handy parking lots nearby. And above all, that is, again, we have a very small footprint and we want to maintain that small footprint. And we're not talking about reaching out to people to add to traffic. I know that right now is a difficult time in the economy and the environment, but I really believe that it is possible to operate a responsible urban business without trying to pull in additional cars. And it may mean less people come there, I get it, but we're not going to let them in if they double park. We are not going to let them in if we are not going to allow people to congregate or form a line or any other sort of thing. There are other businesses in that area. We've spent a tremendous amount of time just watching the people double parking for Dunkin' Donuts and other places. I can assure you, we have the wherewithal. Dunkin' Donuts can't tell somebody you can't double park. We can, and we will.
Okay, you will stop them from double parking.
That is
All
correct.
right.
Yeah, that was one of the conditions with a lot of the neighborhood groups. They were concerned about double parking, and we will have security on premise that will be making sure that no one who does double park is allowed to come in. Therefore, discouraging them from doing so.
And one last thing on that, we operated for 11 years on Winter Street, which is a pedestrian only. You can imagine all the people that wished that they could park in front where it was very convenient and then walk in. And for 11 years, we never let that happen. So we have experience, and within the powers that we have, as in you can't come in if you do that, I think we can effectively monitor that.
Understood. Mission Hill is denser and deep student population as well. So, it's a different reality. But I appreciate your answer. You talked about a minimum of 85% of your team will be drawn from the following demographics. And the first thing you put is minorities. Can you break that? Minorities. So you're talking about, do you have percentages that you can give, or?
Well, first of all, if we get into that, I'm merely mirroring the language from the Boston Cannabis Board. I
Understood.
personally loathe the word minorities, and I loathe being put into that bucket. I would say that what I can speak definitively on is the type of person that I hire. And we have, as I stated, 98.75% of the people who work for us at this time, the last time that I did a payroll count, were people of color. So what I am pledging and what I'm very confident there's 15 to 22 jobs. I have 40 applicants, all who are people of color, all who are Boston residents, all who would very happily sign up on day one. So, and that is people of all sexual orientations, people
in different cultural backgrounds.
Yeah.
Black, Latino,
Asian.
We're like a rainbow.
Okay. And you two are the executives. So and you're hiring for like managers and all the different positions, right? So, and then you talk about the microloans that are very popular. Do you have a limit on those? Do you have a cap? Like, how much are you talking about?
So we haven't instituted it directly. I mean, financial health is what limits us now. So what I mean by that is I have to, if somebody comes to me and they're like, oh, I need $800 because I had a relative who passed away in, Dominican Republic, and I need to pay for the funeral, I'm going to be like, okay, well, let me move things around and see if I can come up with that money. So it's not formal.
I'm sorry. So you don't do it now? You don't?
No, we do.
No, we do.
We do.
do
What I'm
it.
saying is,
Okay.
when somebody comes to us, I evaluate the situation and I evaluate my current financial health because it's coming from us. And we say, okay, we can give you whatever the amount is. And obviously, when it's a more pressing matter, we do our best to do it. What we're proposing for formalizing this, because again, we're operating now as a mom and pop because that's what we are. I am hoping, from what everybody is claiming about cannabis, this is going to be slightly more lucrative than the not so fun restaurant industry that we're in at the moment. So in the event that it is more lucrative, I think that we will be able to have a fund of money, and I'm anticipating these grants to be about the loans to be about $1,000. And one thing I didn't have time to mention is they will be forgivable if you do community activities. So we're going to be closely involved with the neighborhood. If somebody is able to contribute their time for a cause that matters, for something that the neighborhood has vouched for, then we will offer them forgiveness path that way by donating their time instead of paying, so they don't get further into debt.
So you do community service to forgive your debt.
We will offer that option.
Okay. And then, but it depends again on your profits. Does the same go for the micro business incubator?
So for that, the way it's structured right now, and we're going to formalize
About
it, so
that,
I
yeah.
would be happy to submit to the board when prior to opening exactly what our plans will be when we have an actual fund set aside. In terms of the micro business incubator, what that really is at this time, and this is going to change. I could, for real, and I would love to tell you all the things that we have planned and all the ways that we plan on bringing our community up and doing so in a very green way. But what we are able to offer right now is we have a lot of resources, we have equipment, and we offer them a chance to help, first of all, guide them to community resources, help them figure out what sort of entity they need to create. Do they need insurance? Some of the basic stuff as a small business owner, you know, like that. Somebody who's trying to get in, who just wants a little side hustle, they may not know that. We're able to come in and say, here's how you can take these steps to build some more money and to gain the control of your life that comes with small business ownership, even if it is a micro business, because these are steps. I operated many micro businesses before I got to the point of being able to ever open a brick and mortar. Does that answer you?
Somewhat, yes. And I guess lastly, I would ask, and what are the other sort of community benefits for that community you're offering?
So I unfortunately ran out of time. I didn't talk fast enough. On the last page of the presentation, one of the things that we agreed to form is an advisory committee, and that's going to have 5 of the members will be from neighborhood organizations. 4 of the members will be people who we will be able to collectively with the community groups agree that they can join. There's certain terms in terms of the amount of time they can serve and renewal and so on. So that advisory committee will be coming up with where we're going to donate our money. Now, in addition to the 3%, which that goes to the city of Boston, Mission Hill asked us, well, what are you doing for us? So here's what we're doing. One, we're starting with $10,000. And I know that people, I don't know what people have come before you with. Maybe they offer millions. We're coming without much money in the bank. So we're anticipating the first year we can promise $10,000 we're going to put towards whatever the advisory committee wishes in order to benefit Mission Hill. We have also pledged to donate again annually $10,000 to ROCA, and that is for whatever they would like to do in order to help ROCA achieve its objectives of helping to give young people second chances, particularly those with nonviolent cannabis convictions.
So 10,000 to Mission Hill and 10,000 to ROCA, which is in Chelsea. Okay.
It's in Chelsea, but they're still doing good things. They're part of our community.
Yep.
And of course, the 3% of gross sales, 100% of gross sales goes to the city of Boston.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I think, if I can add this, one of the differences between my wife and I and everybody else that comes before you is that most of the people that you speak to are very well funded. Now, Jody and I can't come in here promising people the world in the industry that no one really knows where it's gonna go or what it's really gonna happen. I have friends who have opened dispensaries and they're struggling and they're selling tens of thousands of dollars a month. So I think it's important to mention that, because we're coming in with realistic expectations of what we can do, and not making promises that we can't keep.
And we don't have investor financing, and there's a lot of frothy money going on out there that we're not accessing. That's
And
why
we at the board don't really compare one against the other. We just compare you as you are, take you as you are. But I appreciate your answers. But thank you, Jasmine.
Chairwoman Joyce, any follow-up questions?
Sorry, no, I don't have any follow-up questions.
So we will move to public testimony, beginning with elected officials or representative of elected officials.
Hi, yes. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the board. Molly Griffin with the Office of Neighborhood Services. The Mayor's Office would like to go on record in support of this proposal. Our office hosted an abutters meeting on June 24th, 2021. Following the meeting, we have received 11 letters of support and 1 letter of opposition. The applicant also received support letters from the Community Alliance of Mission Hill and the Mission Hill Neighborhood Housing Services. And like they mentioned, they formed a good neighbor agreement with Mission Hill Neighborhood Housing Services. The applicant adequately addressed all the concerns from abutters, and with that, our office would like to go on record in support. Thank you.
Thank you, Molly.
Hi, Lauren Brody from City Councilor Kenzie Box Office. Good afternoon, Chair and members of the board. Team Green is the first Latino-owned cannabis business in the city of Boston. The Community Alliance of Mission Hill and Mission Hill Neighborhood Housing Services both support the dispensary. Team Green has also reached a voluntary good neighbor agreement with Mission Hill Neighborhood Housing Services. The councilor's greatest cause for concern about the site is its location, almost immediately adjacent to the Tobin Community Center. And as the councilor has expressed previously to the board, she does not think the nearly standard practice of approving a second marijuana dispensary within a half-mile buffer zone reflects reasonable community expectations that the buffer zone rule will be upheld. Due to the overarching policy objection, the councilor is in non-opposition. Thank you.
I have a question for the councilor staff.
Sure.
She's questioning, what did she call it? Something about the buffer zone?
Yes, that the buffer zone, we've seen it time and time again, is not being respected.
Okay, but she doesn't oppose this.
She's in non-opposition based on the applicant. It's similar to other applicants in the past that they do request the buffer zone, but they are very high.
No, I understand, but she's not taking a position of opposition, but she's letting us know that she wants us to oppose it because of the buffer zone, but she won't oppose it?
That's not what no. What the
Okay.
councilor is saying is that she's concerned about the buffer zone because of time and time again, there seems to be applicants that are consistently applying for a buffer zone in a specific area. And it's a broader conversation that is happening about the buffer zone.
No, I know it. She's spoken publicly about how her opinion is that we don't take the buffer zone into consideration, but she hasn't opposed this. So she's not
opposition. Yes.
Okay. Just what was her exact line that you said, that the board summarily ignores the buffer zone? Is that what she said?
It has, as the board, wait, I'm going to read directly from the letter just to eliminate any confusion because I just
that line kind of made me pause because I've heard her say it before about the board.
Yes.
I take it very seriously. Go ahead.
She appreciates that. The councilor does not think the nearly standard practice of approving a second marijuana dispensary within a half-mile buffer zone reflects reasonable community expectations that the buffer zone rule.
Okay, I got it. Nearly standard practice. Okay.
Yes.
So we'll write her down as non-opposition.
Yes, she's in non-opposition.
Right. She didn't oppose it, but she thinks that we're not taking the buffer zone into consideration on this application. I just wanted to clear that up for myself because it's confusing when a counselor does not oppose something, but then tells us that we're using a nearly standard practice. So I just want to think about that.
Yeah, we also submitted a letter, so it's in writing.
Great. Thank you. Jasmine?
Yep. I'm checking the chat to see if anyone signed up to testify. I don't see any names. Is there anyone else that wishes to testify in support or opposition of this proposal?
I do. I don't know if you guys can hear me.
Yep. Can you state your name and address for the record?
Yeah, JC Morales, 25 Walnut Street, Boston, 31-year resident of Boston and past chair of the Latino Equity Fund at the Boston Foundation. I just want to go on the record in support. I've known Jody and Richie for a decade, exemplary citizens, business leaders, great parents, and above all, something that I see very few of, which are business leaders with a social heart. They like to do it the right way. And I couldn't think of a better team to be entering this space, but doing so very thoughtfully and aware that in this business you can do well, but you also have to do well. So let's do well for the community. So in support.
Thank you for your testimony. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak? Seeing none, the board will take this matter under advisement. Thank you. Number 5, Green Strategy Corporation has asked for a deferral. We're going to take a quick 5-minute break and continue with the rest of the hearings. All right, we will be getting started in 1 minute. All right, so quick note before we begin with our final 2 presentations. Pursuant to the rules and regulations of the BCB, the May 12th, 2021 BCB agenda had 2 equity applicants and 0 non-equity applicants. 2 non-equity applicants were notified that they met the BCB's rules and regulations for a completed application. However, they did not submit the final hearing materials on time or ask for a deferral. Therefore, 2 additional non-equity applicants are being heard this month to reflect the 1-to-1 equity to non-equity.
I have a question about that, Jasmine.
Sure.
So what you're explaining to us here, to get this on the record for everyone, is exactly what happened on this month's agenda as well.
Exactly.
With number 5 asking us last night to defer their presentation, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So number 6 on the agenda, we have Castle Leaf LLC. The proposed license premise is 100 Leo M. Birmingham Parkway in Brighton. They are applying for a recreational cannabis dispensary license and product manufacturer license. The hours of operation is Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. This is a non-equity applicant. The date of initial application is November 4th, 2019. The date of filing with Inspectional Services is November 4th, 2019. And the date of the community meeting was June 14th, 2021. There is a buffer zone conflict. Who is present on behalf of the licensee?
Dwan Packnett and Jay Yeomans.
Okay, perfect. Okay, you're gonna have 10 minutes to present. I'll give you a warning at 5 minutes and 1 minute. You may begin your presentation.
Now, or in 1 minute?
You can begin. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Dwan Packnett, and I am co-founder of Castle Leaf LLC. For those of you who don't know me, I am a 12-year Brighton resident, lawyer, and community organizer at heart, vice chair of Ward 21 Democratic Committee, member of the BAIA, and an enthusiastic Boston Marathon volunteer at Mile 21 in Cleveland Circle. From leading Olympic venue land acquisition for the '96 Atlanta Games to managing the city's first-time homebuyer program and working in the mayor's office of economic development, I have built a 30-plus year career helping people define and build their communities. In September 2019, after 9 years, I left the city of Boston to pursue my next chapter, co-founding Castle Leaf. Slide 2, please. For me, the cannabis industry is a logical extension of my public service career. With the right operator, cannabis can become an economic engine for enormous and equitable community benefit. As an 11-year-old girl from a Black working class neighborhood in segregated 1967 Chicago, I, along with 5 other Black students, integrated an elementary school in a white working class neighborhood less than 3 miles away. So I have firsthand knowledge and understanding of the consequences and disparities caused by racism and the resulting misguided policies like the failed war on drugs. These experiences fueled me to set the standard for what equity, opportunity, and community investment can and should look like for the cannabis industry here in Boston. That is why, as an employee of Sierra Naturals, I helped create the first in the state accelerator program that Jody mentioned, supporting economic empowerment applicants, co-founded the first in the nation cannabis workforce training program for returning citizens, the Cultivate Ed program, with Representative China Tyler, Roxbury Community College, the Urban League, and Greater Boston Legal Services, and helped lead the successful signing of the state's first cannabis collective bargaining agreement. So after careful contemplation, Michael McDade, founder and CEO of Galaxy Integrated Technologies, and I merged our respective expertise to establish Castle Leaf. Michael's company has provided state-of-the-art security for a variety of major institutions since 1984, including Gillette, 15 airports, including Logan, Mass General, St. Elizabeth's, and Franciscan's Children's, to name a few. Slide 4, please. We are locally owned and operated by Boston residents and business owners. As Castle Leaf's largest shareholder, I take our commitment to provide exceptional retail operations and community investment personally. Dave and Kyle Gamboni, 2 local business leaders and community developers to whom I am so grateful, have generously invested in this project. Both live right here in Boston with their young and growing families. And while Dave, Michael, and I make up the core ownership and management team, we are thrilled to be supported by an incredible cast of consulting professionals. Next slide, please. As you can see, we've been working on this project for over 2 years, and notwithstanding the pandemic delay, we are pleased with the lasting connections we have made here in Allston Brighton. We are humbled by the strong support from our neighbors and friends, including letters of support from the BAIA and Senator Brownsberger, a letter of non-opposition from District Councilor Liz Breeden, and enthusiastic letter of support from Leader Moran and Chairman Honan, 30 letters and emails of support, and over 700 petition signatures from residents, Alston Brighton businesses, and employees. Next slide, please. Castle Leaf is proposing a retail facility on the 3,700 square foot first floor of the existing structure at 100 Leo M. Birmingham Parkway, with a commercial kitchen located on the second floor. The expansive first floor ensures that all customer queuing will be internal, so no lines will ever form outside of the building. Proposed hours of operation, Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m., and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. Slide 9, please. The Castle Leaf site represents a transit-dense location with 24 existing on-site parking spots, feet away from Soldiers Field Road and minutes from the Mass Pike, Cambridge, and Watertown. Public transit options are also available. The Boston Landing commuter train and the 86 bus are both mere feet from our front door. We will offer full employee public transit subsidies and customer incentive programs to encourage alternative transit options. We will provide on-site bike parking and storage, and we are actively working with the City of Boston to create a ride-share drop-off. Next slide, please. Summarizing our transit suitability, VHB concludes, our project is sufficiently supported by transit options and will not negatively impact the neighborhood. Slide 13, please. The highly regulated cannabis industry provides hands-on, on-the-job training, allowing people from disproportionately impacted communities to gain valuable experience and then take those same skills to do anything they choose in any legalized cannabis market, limited only by their imagination, not by their opportunities. This ability to move up the ladder or across the country for better opportunities, or both, is true economic independence and mobility. Castle Leaf will implement a three-phased, equity-driven diversity and inclusion and employment program with a workforce development goal to hire 75% of our employees from the City of Boston, 65% minorities, and that would be African American, Latinx, and Asian, 50% women, and 25% with criminal records. In addition, we will sponsor quarterly query and pro bono legal assistance clinics. Through community engagement, using a "you can't be what you can't see" approach, we will gather in disproportionately impacted neighborhoods, facing head-on the complicated and racist history of cannabis, describing the basics of our industry, and exploring the opportunities for cannabis careers with community members. Our workforce development training relies on innovative partnership with the CCC's new Director of Equity, Kevin Sidley, legal service agencies, faith-based and law enforcement organizations, and programs for returning citizens like Boston's Operation Exit and Cultivate Ed. Training is why we will never require cannabis experience as a condition of employment at Castle Leaf. D&I values will be front and center throughout all levels of Castle Leaf, focusing internally and critically, externally through contracted ancillary services. And to retain our diverse talent, we will have an industry-leading living wages and benefits, strong career development, and opportunities for promotion. Castle Leaf's Community Co-op is our pilot program focused on partnerships with local Boston entrepreneurs, like my friend and colleague in cannabis, Boston EE applicant Jody Mendoza. Together, our companies will develop locally inspired, co-owned brands, merchandise, and marijuana-infused products using Castle Leaf's marijuana manufacturing license. Slide 18, please. Our seed-to-sale tracking system will ensure all product is accounted for at all times. We will have educational literature that we provide to every single customer on the safe storage of cannabis. Entry is only granted to individuals 21 years of age and older. Each customer will have their IDs electronically checked by advanced ID science scanners. All customers are subject to a second ID verification at checkout prior to purchase. And we enjoy a partnership with Imperial with years of experience specializing in safe and covert cash transportation. We have an absolute zero tolerance policy for nuisances or on-premise consumption. Any customer found consuming products on site or in the surrounding area, including Portsmouth Park, will receive a lifetime ban from Castle Leaf. Castle Leaf will maintain a full complement of security personnel to monitor the site and conduct routine Corona sweets. And finally, we have voluntarily committed to only selling inseparable packs of 4 pre-rolls, creating higher price points that replicate the widely successful tobacco prevention programs. Slide 20, please. Collectively, the Castle Leaf team brings over 100 years of retail management, operations, real estate, and government and community relations expertise to this cannabis venture, all while living, working, or owning businesses in the Alston-Brighton neighborhood for several decades. In closing, Brighton is my home, so community is the most important aspect of our business, and you will see us often. A phone number for neighborhood or community concerns will be posted on Castle Leaf's front door, and once we are open, we look forward to convening quarterly meetings to ensure continuous communication and feedback. We thank you for your time, and the entire Castle Leaf team is here with me to answer your questions.
Thank you, Dwan.
Jay?
Chairwoman Joyce, do you have any questions for the applicant? You're on mute.
Sorry about that, having some Zoom issues, but I think I solved them. I don't have any questions. Oh, I have one question about the applicant. Could you, because this location this neighborhood often attracts college students and young people. It's right near the New Balance facility. Could you explain to me what you're doing for looking for fake IDs? It says you'll check for identifications, but are you going to be using a scanner? Are you going to be using backup ID?
Yeah, great. Thank you, Madam Chair. Jay Yeomans representing the applicant, joined here by Michelle Foley, who's our operations and retail management consultant, as well as Michael McDade, who's the CEO and owner of Galaxy Technologies. As you heard, Galaxy has many decades of experience working with ID verification, including at Logan Airport, various US Navy and Coast Guard stations, hospitals, et cetera. So we're excited to be working with them, as well as International Protective Services, IPS, which we enjoy a partnership with to train our security on ID scanner, science scanner technologies. And Michelle, I don't know if you want to walk through, how staff are trained for the multi-point verification with identification.
Are you actually using a scanner?
Yes, we'll be using a scanner. So in check-in, the security booth before the customers enter the actual dispensary, there will be staff with ID scans. And as Jay mentioned, that is state-of-the-art technology. So if the ID is a fake ID, if it's expired, the ID scan will detect that immediately, and the person will not be allowed to enter the building. As Dwan said in the presentation, we will have a redundant system in check just to be safe. So at the point of sale, there will also be a physical check of the ID, but it will be scanned upon arrival.
And for out-of-state IDs and international passports and stuff, what kind of backup do you require?
So the software that we will have does scan, so it's passports, out-of-state IDs. It does collect from all of the states. That software is updated regularly, so it will check for for the validity of those IDs as well.
Could you forward to the board exactly what you're planning on using as licensing chair? I've been along on many instances where an ID is as legal at the licensed premise, but with our inspectors, it's scans as fake ID. So I was curious what people are using.
Yes, we can absolutely do that.
Okay, I don't have any questions.
Commissioner Holmes, do you have any questions for the applicant?
Not at this time, no, thank you.
Commissioner Sankian?
Yes, thank you. So I just had a couple question about the financing piece. Just trying to wrap my head around how the structure is. I see that Platt Cannabis is solely funding the operation, And that is co-owned by David and Kyle, but it's, and then their stake is both through Platt as well as their direct stake in it. So I just, and if you could verify, if you could clarify if Platt Cannabis is part of any other, is invested in other cannabis establishments.
Development.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I can, Dave can jump in here in a moment, but just to clarify the spreadsheet, so Platt Cannabis is the way in which Dave and Gambone are expressing their interests. So I apologize if it was confusing the way that I filled it out, but I just wanted to be clear that Dave and Kyle each have a 50% stake vis-a-vis their percentages through Platt in Castleleaf. And no, Platt Cannabis does not have any other holdings or interests in other cannabis ventures. This is Dave and Kyle's, while certainly not their first foray into real estate investment, it's their first foray into the cannabis industry. Really excited to work with two young entrepreneurs that have been in Boston for a really long time. And Dave, I don't know if you want to add anything to that answer.
no, I think you cleared it up pretty well there.
Thank you. And in terms, so, and they're providing 100% financing, but there are other partners and some are through separate LLCs and kind of, so for example, like Dewan is 37%, I believe. How is that, how is that calculated through sort of what you agreed to as you, when you came on? How does that, because you're still working for Sierra Natural?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yes.
So kind of how, if you could talk a little bit about how that financial structure is set.
Well, I'll let Jay talk a little bit more about the financial structure, but how I came on, as I said, I work for the city of Boston and actually started this, and then the mayor issued the executive order. And so I was forced to leave, and then I got the job, you know, and I love Mayor Walsh too. So I got the job at Sierra Naturals. I was fortunate to get the job at Sierra Naturals as a way to allow me to continue on. And I should say that first, that was a you can't be what you can't see moment for me, of to come into a cannabis company and see how one was run, the size, the scale. That's where I learned that this was an industry and how important and what an economic engine it could be. So it was from that perch that I had the opportunity to see exactly how this was run, to meet people like Michelle Foley and Spencer Knowles and folks that we're working with, that we could then have the opportunity to start our own venture that is separate and apart from Sierra Naturals. So my percentage looks at a percentage for me, and then there is another percentage that should we need other investors or things should happen, that would also be there for the LLC to then use. So if we want to expand or to do something later. So that's how I'm the, and even without that, I'm still the largest percentage holder, so.
Yeah, and I think just to answer further, I mean, I've been in this space since 2013, and at one point was on your side of things, and I can tell you that these LLCs get very tricky and that there's a lot of things that can be hidden behind them. And what I can assure you, since I've seen all the agreements, is that there is nothing kind of shrouded in secrecy here. Dwan, this was Dwan's initiative. I remember the day when we were representing Castleleaf, when Dwan on a Friday had to leave her job at the city. I actually connected her with the folks at Sierra, and we were able to get her employed by the next week. So, you know, this has really been an organic process, and there was definitely a time when this was going to be a self-financed venture during the early days of adult use cannabis. I think all of you know that cannabis financing, you know, crashed pretty significantly right before the pandemic, and it really forced us to kind of pause, not only because of the pandemic, but pause also because we needed to think about how we were going to move forward, and we were really lucky to have the support that we did. So it's been a great partnership, and I think that the percentages in the equity stack very much reflect that each member of the team is bringing different components of our success.
And if I could add one more thing to this, it's also an opportunity as we start in this cannabis business to look at meaningful ways people of color can actually be equity partners in these organizations and a new way. So I feel like I've had two opportunities. One, to see a corporation that is a cannabis company, because I first thought they were only retail stores, to be frank. I didn't realize all of this existed. And now the second opportunity to be an owner in a small neighborhood company that is not affiliated. So I think that there's a lot more out here, and there are other things. And hopefully this is one of the many ways people of color can have ownership interests and begin to build wealth, generational wealth. That is my goal here, is to have the interest for that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Smith? Oh, sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I don't have any further questions.
Okay. Commissioner Smith?
Hey, Jasmine, thanks. Ms. Packnett,
Yes.
looking at the presentation, empowering entrepreneurs. So you're doing a community co-op, which is focused on partnerships. So you have here, you're going to partner with people like Boston Equity applicant Jody Mendoza, who was, according to CIRA's website, a
accelerator fellow.
Yeah.
So I manage, actually. That's how Jody and I met.
Mhm.
Is that I, on behalf of Sarah, and you, I think when we did our presentation with you. So we have a very similar program, and the accelerator program is how we met. And I was working, Jody and I have worked together on helping her get started, get applications in, and that sort of thing from my role as the Vice President of Community and of Government Relations and Community Investment. We've become friendly, and she and Richie have been really tremendous, just working with us as I'm working at CIRA, giving us ideas and that sort of thing. So one of the things this is allowing, and we can see that with other accelerator fellows that we work with, is this gives us an opportunity to get together. We understand kind of the things that we are engaging in and really get a good look at it. But the folks at CIRA Naturals, the folks that I work with, have been really committed to helping us. You have to have someone who's open to business, as Michelle explained, who would understand what type of scanners do you need? How do you get through the CCC inspection?
Very good with her words.
So it's just really important. Some things you have to do. And I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Can everybody else please mute themselves? Sorry, go ahead.
So I think one of the things, and we've worked with like Kobe and Kevin at PRACES, it's become kind of a little group as we all begin to start businesses and have questions, that we really are kind of in communication and working together. And it's so important. And I think that's one of the things, and I think where Sarah has done a great job with this program is allowing us to meet, but then to grow beyond them. And so I think this has been a great program. I absolutely look forward to the opportunity to not just work with Jody, but we also work with Dennis Benson, who is in Chelsea with Western Front. So there's a group of folks that you guys are going to be seeing a few of them as well.
Sure. So I guess just to clarify my question. So is it CIRA, Castleleaf working with these, or is it Castleleaf?
No, it's Dwan Packnett working with Jody Mendoza
Directly.
And Richie.
Okay.
Directly. And so everything about Castleleaf is Dwan Packnett working with Jody Mendoza directly, or Western Front if they come into this product.
And are they all going to be CIRA fellows, or?
Well, they are, and it's kind of, no, they don't have to be. I'm open to anyone who has a business that seems to work and has really exciting new ideas and is looking to have some cutting edge products, who is looking to capture cannabis in a different way. I think that's what's going to happen with this industry. And so we are open to anyone. I was just lucky enough to have met Jody and Richie and have been to their club as well. So it was just fortuitous.
Yeah, and I think Commissioner, I appreciate where I think your question's going, and please correct me if I'm making any assumptions here. But I think that when Dwan founded Castleleaf LLC, again, before she ever even knew what CIRA Naturals was, when she had to leave the city, it became an opportunity really for, in a way, Dwan to become the first accelerator fellow by being an employee and learning at this industry. And, you know, through that experience, I think really inspired her creation of that accelerator and the programs that have occurred since then. I think it's natural to say that all of these relationships that, you know, we have built around Castle Leaf are obviously from cohorts of folks that we know and work with. So there is definitely cross-pollination of contacts and people. No question, Michelle's an employee of Sierra. She's been brought on personally in her personal capacity to support us with a contract. So she's making some extra money personally. There is definitely a Sierra Naturals is not involved in this, other than the owners are supportive of Dwan and of this venture. But I do appreciate the comment, because there's a lot of cute stuff going on, shall we say, in this industry, and you know, you are wise to ask those questions, and we'd be happy to sit down with staff or members of the agreements. We're definitely not looking to hide anything. It's a good question.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And just last question is the pay and benefits. Can you give me the pay breakdown? And also, do you have any benefits? You talk about hiring people from certain tracks in Boston. Do you have any transportation benefits? So
Yes,
they can gain access to the Brighton location?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
It's okay.
So I'll start with the last question. We're going to subsidize transportation, because while we may have the 24 spots, that we agree with the idea that you want to encourage and have people actually use public transportation and not to add to the congestion and the parking problem. So we are going to subsidize. As for jobs, and let me start with first, hiring people of color in cannabis is not an easy feat. And there is an obvious kind of skepticism that this is real and that these will be good jobs. And so we are committed to that. And that's why we go into neighborhoods. This is going to take a lot more. As far as we are looking at about $16 an hour as starting, this may be for a bud tender. Michelle can talk about the other jobs that will be on site. In addition, there will be manufacturing jobs, not initially. Our first year, we will just get going with a retail store. But the idea would be that we would also have jobs in production, manufacturing, the packaging. That's what the second floor could be. And that's where a lot of the creativity, that's where a lot of things could develop. And that's where we would want to be working with other entrepreneurs in both locally in Brighton and certainly around the city. So, but we do plan to have, I think you have to have something that sets you apart in culture and pay, and that would make people stay. There's going to be too many cannabis companies, and you want to retain these folks, because once you learn this and it becomes specific, you want this to grow. And for the folks that we're working with, it's not meant for them to stay there forever. I hope they take the opportunity that I'm taking, like at Sierra Naturals, and go off to think of ways they can do their own thing, perhaps with our support and helping them move along.
I appreciate that. You said competitive wages. There wasn't a number.
I said, so a starting bud tender. So kind of the going rate would be around $16 an hour as a starting bud tender. And I'll let Michelle tell you more about other rates, but.
Yeah, I do think it's, you know, this industry is so new and still growing, and I think it's challenging to put a specific number on specific positions, because the industry is growing so fast, and so salaries change all the time because the industry is, you know, trying to keep up, and they're just, you know, dispensaries are opening and companies are just opening, and so we're really, you know, I would say the main message is that we will be competitive not only with other cannabis companies, but with other retail, restaurant, other industries, to give people good paying jobs and ensure they're paid for the jobs that they're doing.
In terms of benefits, we'll be offering group life insurance policies that will include AD&D coverage. We'll also be offering vision and dental. We'll be offering vacation accrual beginning day one, which I know is something that you don't see at a lot of these places, and 80 hours of annual sick time, regardless of full or part-time status. So all of those things will be included for any retail worker who's working 30 or more hours a week. So we think that also sets us apart.
Yeah, thank you, Jay. I saw that in the plan. I didn't see a transportation benefit, so
Yeah, so transportation will be 100%. We will reimburse 100% for MBTA passes, Blue Bike subscriptions, et cetera.
All right, thanks so much.
Chairwoman Joyce, any follow-up questions?
Yes, I do. Here we are again. We have a buffer zone conflict, and as chair of the board, I don't want this to be seen as a nearly standard practice that we would approve an application summarily within a buffer zone without digging into that. So I would like the applicant to describe for the board why we should grant a license to this application that is within the buffer zone. This is subject to a heightened level of scrutiny, and while you did submit something in writing, I would like you to describe that for everyone here today.
Well, if I can begin, and then Jay can, when it gets more specific and technical. So I think the thing that really sets us apart is what Castleif is, and a group of neighborhood people coming together. We have been working on this for 2 years. When we actually first started, we went first to the community before we put in an application to see if this was something the community, we understand NIMBY, we live in Brighton. We understand when people don't want it regardless, don't want a cannabis facility. So I think our community support and the commitment that we have from the folks in the community, as I mentioned, not just the elected officials, but I want to say day to day, and all of the strong support that I've personally received from folks about this, I think that's what sets us apart. I would also say, being a member of the BAIA and looking at cannabis companies coming in fairly frequently, that it is also one of the few what I would call compromise places in Alston Brighton that the community could agree on of where they would put a cannabis facility, partially because it is commercially zoned, because there is parking, because we have the covered in the back of the facility, we have a door where you can drive in, and so all of the transport makes it easier. And it's next to the free highway.
That's what we're looking for, not so much that about the support, that's important, but how do you distinguish your operation from the other applicant that was before us within the buffer zone?
Right, and so it's those sorts of things, and that because we're kind of a fortress style, you can't see in, we can queue inside, so we should have very little disruption as far as lines or anything outside. So I think those were the kinds of things that made it a great site, at least to many of the folks considering what should be in Brighton, and why it was kind of a compromise. And I'll put it out there, if we had to have cannabis in the area, this is one of the few places that we don't mind as much. I would just put it that way.
Yeah, I guess to build off of that, thank you, Madam Chair. I would just say that, number one, the applicant at 204 North Beacon Street is owned by a gentleman from California. This is the only 100% locally owned applicant in the Alston Brighton area, with a majority shareholder in Dwan Packnett. I think that this is, while not an EE applicant, I think this is exactly what I think this board was hoping to nurture and support in terms of the kinds of local entrepreneurs and investment that would exist both in the EE and non-equity space. There are specifically 5 elements that are included in your regulations at 1.05 C and D. While I know I provided an exhaustive response to each of those elements, I would just broadly say that we enjoy, I would say, the far and away the most support amongst Alston Brighton applications that have been before you in regard to element 1. In regard to element 2, it's commercially zoned. It's an existing commercial use. We have 24 parking spaces supported by a globally recognized security company, which owns the property and is a co-owner with us. We've been at this for 2 years. If we were not to be approved at this time, obviously that would be a significant hardship for us, being that we're not an equity applicant and that it would require a one-to-one pairing. I would also say that, Dwan left her public service career to, really push this application and venture forward. And so on a personal level, I know it would be a hardship to her. In regards to the harmony with intent of the zoning commission code, I would point to the significant barrier represented in the Mass Pike and the 6 lanes of traffic going 50 plus miles an hour that separate us from North Beacon Street. I would also, in terms of the last element, as to whether it would negatively impact the surrounding neighborhood, again, I would go back to security experience, the community support, our no tolerance policy, the fact that we're voluntarily agreeing to packs of 4 pre-rolls so that we won't see folks coming in for a casual purchase. And I point to the 24 spaces and VHB VHB's own analysis.
Okay, I think we got that all. I don't have any other questions. Jasmine?
Do any of the other commissioners have any follow-up questions for the applicant? Seeing none, we will move to public testimony. I first want to call on State Rep Michael Moran, who's been on the call. State Rep.
Thank you, Jasmine. Thank you, Chair Joyce and members of the board. My name, for the record, is Michael Moran. I'm the state representative, one of the state representatives from Austin Brighton, and this particular location is in my district, and I'm very familiar with the surrounding area. As I don't want to beat this thing up too much, but the location is very unique, and quite frankly, I think it's one of the better locations that has come before you. For the record, for history, I have supported marijuana legalization, but I've also opposed other locations in the neighborhood because they weren't the right fit. I've also supported other locations in the neighborhood because they were the right fit. This is one of the locations that I think is uniquely positioned with the Mass Pike on its border, and being in a very industrial commercial zoned area. And I think it is speaks highly of this proposal when myself, Rep. Honan, and Senator Brownsberger are all willing to come out and support this project in our districts, in our respective districts. I also want, if I could, finally just say a word about Dwan. Dwan, I knew before she got into marijuana, and she's a great person, always volunteering, always being in and around the neighborhood, trying to help people. Even now with her entry into this new industry, she brings people in that are, I guess, other people would see as competitors, but she sort of sees it as a paying forward kind of thing to give them advice on how to do this and start their own business. And I do want to underscore that, you know, and I know it's been said, although this is not an equity applicant, the co-founder and largest shareholder is an African-American woman who is trying to break into this industry. And I would ask you to please consider that as you make deliberations on this. Other than that, I just want to reiterate, I do support this application and hope you approve it as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we will move to elected officials or representatives of elected officials.
Hi, thanks. Connor Newman with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. Madam Chair, members of the board, our office would like to go on record in non-opposition to this proposal. The Mayor's Office conducted an abutters meeting on June 14th of 2021. We heard a mix of opinions presented. There was some opposition regarding proximity to the Portsmouth playground, as well as impact on existing traffic issues on Lincoln Street and cut through traffic on other side streets in the area. Separate from this, BTD has been trying to work with the community on addressing the cut through traffic. We've received 5 letters of opposition, mostly from residents outside of the buffer, but are residents of the North Brighton neighborhood where that location resides. We also received support as well. Brighton Allston Improvement Association, which is a local civic group, came out in support for the proposal. As you've heard from State Rep Mike Moran, they were in support, as well as State Rep Kevin Honan. Residents liked about the proposal was that the applicant was local and had connections to the neighborhood and was familiar and active with the community. They also liked that there was on-street parking at the location, 24 spaces, and also the proximity to Boston Landing. We received 16 letters of support from the broader community, which we have shared with the board. Thank you. And with that, we'll leave it to the determination of the board. Thanks.
Thank you, Connor. Any other?
Good afternoon, Chairwoman Joyce and members of the board. I'm here to represent Councilor Braden. She continues to file a letter of non-opposition to the project. Just want to echo one of the things we've heard in the discussion. This unique location is at the intersection of Lincoln Street and Leo Birmingham, right by the Pike. And there are ongoing discussions about the possible conversion of a small one-way portion of Lincoln Street to two-way. There has been, because of proximity to the Pike, a large concern in the neighborhood about the cut-through traffic that flows through the small residential side streets. Again, just want to offer Councilor Braden's non-opposition and thank you to the discernment of the board as you consider the application carefully. Thank you.
I will now move to those of you that signed up on the chat. You will be limited to 2 minutes. I apologize if I mispronounce names. First, we have Michael Diziak.
Me?
Michael, can you please state your name and address for the record?
Mike Diziak, 14 Portsmouth Street, very close to where it is, where it's going to be done. Jess, I've been fighting the traffic since before 2017. They say they're going to do something, but they're unable to because of the unique design and the streets 1800s, because of Lincoln Street is an access road to I-90. But basically, the proof is my written has a lot of pictures, pre-pandemic traffic studies, which the Boston Traffic did, so thousands of people coming through a narrow street, and a picture to show you how narrow a street is and the traffic coming down. But more important, the best thing is to experience it yourself. So I would recommend the parking lot is one of the bad things about it. It is located on Lincoln Street, which is the one-way section. So if you do a round trip to the parking lot, you can use Boston Locks address 30 Lincoln Street if you're going to try it on your GPS or phone. During a round trip, either going there or coming back, you're going to drive down these local narrow streets past the playground with young kids crossing all the time at the end of the day. And it's basically a nightmare. We've been fighting this for decades. Let's see what else I have here. Oh, and this is the reason why it's all explained in my comments. So you can read that later if you haven't already. But if you could just try it on your own, you would see. Another thing is that Castle Leaf is taking over the plant, my understanding, of Galaxy, which means Galaxy is going to have to leave the area, which means they're losing jobs and they're not going to remain in Boston. So that's something to consider. Okay, she's shaking her head no, so maybe I'm incorrect there. See, you can. Oh, they also stated they're going to ban for life anybody found using the product in the playground. I was just wondering, is that public information? They can, when I'm finished, they can reply, of course. Where are they going to get this information from? And I don't even think that marijuana checks in the playground are done that often. See what else I got here.
That is 2 minutes. You can submit additional testimony in writing to cannabisboard@boston.gov. Next, we have Adam Burns. Is Adam present?
Yep, I'm here. Thank you.
Can you please state your name and address for the record?
Yep, Madam Chair, members of the board, thank you so much for hearing my testimony. My name is Adam Burns, local business owner in Boston. I'm here to speak on the business acumen of Dave and Kyle Gambone, as well as their character. Just wanted to say they're not only business colleagues, but friends of mine. We met at a local CrossFit gym where we both work out. Unfortunately, they run circles around me, but their strength goes well beyond the gym space. In their local development, they're very conscientious of all the neighbors and the communities in which they develop. And I've seen the care that they put into every one of their developments and how they go above and beyond to take care of those that eventually move into the comfortable housing that they create. Unlike other developers that we know, who are just chasing a profit at the end of the day, you can tell that these two brothers really care about the people and the people aspect of the real estate at the end of the day. So I think that you couldn't find two better people to be a part of this venture. So Madam Chair, members of the board, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next we have Joey Akari. It's Joey Akari.
Hi, Joey Arcari here. I'm a local business owner in Brighton. I own Tavern in the Square, and I've owned that for the past 12 years. I just want to go on record of support for Castle Leaf. We have approximately 80 to 100 employees at Tavern, all young professionals, and I think I'm voicing support for all of those people too. I also want to go on record, just David and Kyle Gambone, who are extremely professional, respectful young men. They run a great business, and I think they'll do a great job here. And then lastly, I myself live in Brookline, very close to Netta. That opened up probably about 3 years ago, and there used to be huge parking issues. And since over the past probably 12 months, 18 months, since other places have opened up, there's no more parking issues. All the lines are gone, all the parking issues are gone. So I really think
Thank you.
this location. So again, I just thank you.
Right, we're gonna move to Sean McKeon.
Hi, my name's Sean McEwen. I'm from North Attleboro. I worked 16 years in Brighton in nonprofit healthcare, and I worked with Galaxy Integrated on numerous projects over the years, everything from security to patient bedside devices. And I always appreciated their integrity and their commitment to the community. And I will say that they were regular attendees at community events. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Tony Ondino.
Good afternoon. How are you? My name is Tony Andino from 33 Avenue, Louise Pasteur Boulevard, and I represent Merck Research Laboratories. And I just wanted to make a brief statement on behalf of Michael McDade and Galaxy Integrated Technologies. They have been in support of Merck Research Laboratories, not only in Boston, but also in Cambridge as well. They've been a partner with Merck Research Laboratories for many years now. Me personally, I had the great opportunity to working with them for the past 5 years, and I can't say enough good things in regards to their conscientious professionalism and work ethic overall. They're responsible for the security for all of our facilities, and they're extreme professionals and a great asset to the community and a number of other sites that they work with in conjunction with Merck. And just wanted to say that they've been a phenomenal partner and a very professional establishment.
Thank you. Next, we have Emily Dutile.
Yep, you got it. Hi, everyone. Name's Emily Dutile. I've been a resident of Boston since 2015. I'm here today just to give my testimony in support of Castle Leaf LLC in Brighton for several reasons. One, they're founded by members who live and work in Brighton. There's also a really high level of security since the building is cement. There's also no street level windows. As mentioned a few times, it's easily accessible by public transportation, which won't contribute to the traffic, which I know is a concerning issue. It's located in a commercially zoned area, and additionally, 3 sides of the building are abutted by roads. In addition, members are also improving the curb appeal of the building, and the building has a parking lot for customers, which I know traffic is an issue, but at least it is accessible in other means. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Salvador Pinchera.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you, board members, for letting me speak today. I'm a lifelong resident of the immediate area, 48 Waverly Street, Brighton, Mass, where my family and I live. I am opposed to this Castle Leaf at the location that they chose at the corner of Leo Birmingham Parkway and Lincoln Street. The building is probably 200 feet long with the parking lot. And across from that, which is about 25 feet away, that whole length, are existing homes with people living in them and new condominiums that are being built to be sold directly across from the parking lot and the building. I took a little offense that everybody mentions the Mass Pike and the roadways and everything, but nobody mentions the people that have lived there for generations. That's a little disturbing. Also, it is very close to the playground and park. It's probably 200 feet away from that in the entrance to it. It's used by young children, the playground, and for children of all ages for sporting events, as well as just recreational and old people walking around it. Vinfen Schools is located on Lincoln Street. Nobody mentions that, about 200 feet away. Vinfen is on Lincoln Street, has school for behavioral services, and on Leo Birmingham Parkway directly across from this, that help people that are not so blessed as us. Traffic is an issue. To get to this location, they keep.
That is 2 minutes. You can submit additional testimony in writing. Next, we have Levon Panic.
How you doing, guys? Can you hear me?
Yes.
It's Levon Panic. My address is 19 Underwood Park, Waltham, Mass. I've lived in Boston my whole life, and I would be helping out with the security in the building. And just from a pure security standpoint, some of the points were already mentioned, and someone had brought up, I think in the last hearing, about having the cameras pointed towards the park. I would personally, if I were head of security, I would not have an issue with the cameras being turned off. I think the location's a prime spot. You can't really sneak up on the area. So I don't really have too many safety concerns in the area. As far as, a little bit about my background, I do private security for VIPs and celebrities on movie sets. This would be my first time working in a building like this. I've also been a bouncer at numerous bars in Boston, very familiar with the area. And just briefly, before I run out of time, it's important to remember that there is no perfect location in Boston. I'm sure everyone in this group chat has had a day or two where they've spent more time on the horn than off the horn on the way to work or wherever you're going. So I think that needs to be taken into consideration, to remember that there literally is no such thing as the perfect area in Boston in regards to Boston traffic. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Jesse Stone. Is Jesse Stone?
Yep, Jesse Stone's here. I lived right down the street on 169 Cambridge Street for 5 years. I personally don't use cannabis, and I know that there's been a major talking point about the community. And after hearing the presentation, I really can't think of a better location for a dispensary. It's not near the schools. It's by the Mass Pike. It has tons of parking on site, and across the bridge at the parking garages on Guest Street. And echoing what the gentleman said before me, there's no perfect location, and there's going to be about 50 plus of these in the city. So as perfect as it can be, this location is it. Thank you.
Thank you. Cheryl and Joyce, sorry.
I see Council Breeden's office here. I didn't know if they wanted to speak or not. Pam Mulaney. Or we can come back to Pam.
They spoke.
Oh, they did. Okay.
Woman,
All
yeah,
right.
non-opposition.
Did I hear my name? I'm sorry.
Sorry. I'm kind of confused with the application with the next one because the testimony's been very thorough. You've already spoken. My apologies.
Yes, they have. Yeah.
Okay.
Next, we have Rosalind Greenstein. Is Rosalind present?
Yes, I'm right here.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I wanted to thank you all for letting me speak. I want to speak in support of this application. I've known Dwan Packnett for over 20 years, from working with her in a number of different professional settings. When we first began working together, Dwan was a consultant to the Morehouse College. She was supporting their land acquisition in ways that would benefit both the institution and the neighbors. At the time, I was leading a national town gown collaboration that was forging great groundbreaking strategies to manage this historically challenging relationship between universities and their host communities. Our goal was to explore collaborative ways to balance interests of all parties in this relationship. Dwan became an important member of the leadership team of this community of practice, including her co-authoring a paper that was used by professionals and academics nationally and internationally. I also worked with Dawn when she was with Boston's Department of Neighborhood Development, where she grew the Boston Home Center by expanding the list of qualified lenders, thus giving first-time home buyers greater access to advantageous mortgage products. Because Dawn was able to expertly navigate city policies and private lenders' practices in ways that served residents, she was a regular guest lecturer at my housing policy class at Tufts University. My students always gave Dawn high marks for elevating resident service to a calling. In addition, Dawn has generously mentored a number of students she met in my class. My relationship with Dawn began as colleagues. I'm proud to now call her a friend. She's a person of high integrity. For her application here today, that integrity shows up in at least two important ways. First, Dawn brings every—
That is 2 minutes. You can submit any additional testimony in writing.
Thank you.
Next, we have Steve McCoy.
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi, so I'm Steve McCoy speaking in support of the Castle Leaf proposition. I live at 29 West Sorrento. One thing that I think is being underplayed with all of this is having the building at 100 Leo get a facelift, I think is another benefit for the city. I go to the South End quite a bit, and that's something that they've spent a lot of time on, and it looks really great. There's obviously been a ton of new development along Guest Street, and this being right across the pike, having the building get an aesthetic upgrade and potentially be a place for local artists and others from the community to share their talents is really value add here. And we want people to drive through our neighborhoods and like what they see. Even from the renderings of the presentation, I get pretty excited about this. And just lastly, I can't agree more that there's no perfect location in Boston. I think if we want to avoid traffic, regardless of what goes there, the best solution for that is to move outside of the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Philip Keefe.
Thanks, Jasmine. Hi, my name is Phil Keefe. I was born and raised in Boston and have spent much of the last 10 years in the Allston-Brighton area. I've been following the cannabis industry closely over the last few years, and I've noticed that oftentimes the owners and operators of these businesses aren't from the area and don't understand the specific needs of the community, and it always feels like a missed opportunity when that happens. I feel much more comfortable knowing that the Castle Leaf team is made up of local residents and business owners, people who understand and reflect the community and really want to see it thrive, which is why I want to go on record in support of Castle Leaf and their plan forward with this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have John Lingos Webb. Is John present? No. Next, we have Mark Hughes. Is Mark present?
Yep, sorry.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Hughes. I live at 68 Undine Road in Brighton. I'd like to express my support for the Castle Leaf proposal. I approve of the location. I think it's a good fit for Brighton as it's mostly commercialized area and it's secure. I like that it's locally ran and the emphasis on the community with the building being secure and security measures. I also think it'll have a positive impact on the safety of community. As opposed to some other opinions in this call, I believe having a verified method of purchase of marijuana will mostly negatively impact the sale and distribution or the illegal sale and distribution of marijuana, which is the primary way that youth becomes involved in how youth gets their hand on marijuana. And so I think this proposed location will actually increase the safety of the surrounding community. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I will move to the chat. Benjamin Tucci.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Benjamin Toki. I'm a longtime Brighton resident. I live at 150 North Beacon Street in Brighton. And I am just wanted to express my support for the Castle Leaf proposal and urge the board to do so. As a member of the Brighton Allston Improvement Association, I voted in support of this project. There is no perfect location, honestly, for any business in a densely populated city. However, the location, what really appealed to me was the slightly isolated nature of the location, the fact that it was abutted by roads and the pike, that there are no really blind, dark alley areas for any for public safety. But I also really, one of the mitigating factors was the site across the street from Castle Leaf, which is now being redeveloped, previously for decades hosted a bar that had people going in and out until 1 o'clock in the morning. So the neighborhood obviously does actually have experience, number one, with a business that caters to adult recreational products. And then also the fact that being a dispensary, the hours are much shorter than a bar and you don't have people loitering. And that was very fundamental in my decision. Finally, I would just like to say, I've known Dwan for a very long time, and with that, you know, she brings both an integrity to the process. She has a passion for the product, and she has knowledge working in a related field, and that not only meets the letter of the regulations, but it really also meets the spirit of the regulations imposed by the city of Boston, which is also, I think, very, very important that you meet both, you know, the requirements, but also the spirit. So all in all, I think the integrity of the team and the location, I highly urge the board to approve this project. Thank you.
Thank you. John Blige. John.
Hi, how are you? Sorry, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Hi, I just want to speak in favor of this project. You know, we've seen a lot of these shops come forward, and you know, with people that you don't know, that don't live in the neighborhood, and it's, I think, really important that we do have somebody that knows what the neighborhood's dealing with, and that, you know, before even the signs went up and the notes on the door with phone numbers and everything, we already have them. We already have communication with the person. And I think that's the biggest thing going forward. I mean, we all have arguments on either side about whether we want these shops and where we want them, but they've been approved and they're going to be in the neighborhood. This is a great location for it. And, you know, I think the building that's being built next door, they'll know that this is going to be there. So otherwise, it's not really a residential hub right there right now, and it's got a good transportation. And you know, I just think that this is a good thing for the neighborhood to have somebody in control of a shop like this that we know and that we trust and we can reach out to if we have issues. So I'm in favor of it, and I hope that you guys go forward with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Paula Alexander. Is Paula present? Oh, I saw her on the call.
Unmute myself, thank you. I'm a lifelong resident of Alston and Brighton, and I oppose the project. There have been so many people speaking in favor of this location, and they don't live adjacent to the building. They live far away. And my concern is that they are all for making financial gains for themselves, not for the residents. Dawn mentioned that she met with the community and everyone agreed. Well, everyone does not agree with having that location there. The traffic is another problem. The street is very, very narrow. The last transportation meeting I went to, they wanted to make it it's presently a one-way. They wanted to turn it into a two-way, entering from Birmingham Parkway and going out on Lincoln Street, and have it change it to 3 lanes plus bicycle lanes. There's no way truly that can happen. And you people, all you developers, you want to move in here and make tons of money and leave the residents to suffer. And we will suffer if this goes into that location. I'm telling you right now, it's not right. Please listen to the abutters who will have to suffer the consequences of all this upheaval right next to them. The Mass Pike is on one side, but it's far away from the building. I mean, they have to come into our neighborhood to get to the building. And because you people, so many people don't live here, You do not understand the problems the residents are suffering, and we will suffer.
Paula, that was 2 minutes. You could submit any additional testimony in writing. Thank you. Next, we have Daniel Daly.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and board members. Thank you for the time to allow me to speak. My name for the record is Daniel Daly. I live at 14 Madeline Street. I'm a lifelong Alston Brighton resident. Also the president of the BAIA, the Brighton Alston Improvement Association. And we regularly hear proposals for marijuana. Actually, it's constant. Some have resulted in support of our community base and some have not. This location has garnered support because it's the location. It's in a commercially zoned location, and it does have 24 parking spots. It certainly has a high level of security. It is a security building right now. And it's truly run by local community-based members. And it's really not located near any youth-based retail. And like I said, it did get a lot of community support during our meetings. And I want to go on record to support it as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Lee Navi.
Hi, my name is Lee Nave. I'm an Alston resident, and I'm in support of this project. I believe that a person like Dwan, who I've known several years now, is someone who really considers the community before she makes a major decision. She's been constantly working in the community, and to have her be the leader of this particular business, it shows that the community's concerns, the community's welfare, and the economic supports of the community were the essential things that led her to decide to open up this business in the community. I also believe that the security concerns of this particular project are, I don't believe there are security concerns with this particular project. It's like 2 doors down from the Massachusetts State Police. Like, it is one of the most secure locations in Alston Brighton to open up this particular industry. And as a parent, I don't have concerns either about the park being around 300, 400 feet away because it's a building that's barely marked. Our children have walked by liquor stores for forever almost, and there used to be a bar not too far away from that was way worse. With it closing down at 9 o'clock, it also means that the community doesn't have to suffer at night with folks loitering after dark. So I'm in support of this particular project. I think it's a great location. The traffic concerns are not as bad as folks are really trying to paint them out, considering the many alternatives of transportation for this.
Okay, that was 2 minutes. You can submit any additional testimony in writing. There's a phone number, 5488 is the last 4. You're unmuted if you wanted to speak.
That's me. Can you hear me?
Yes, can you please state your name and address for the record?
Yeah. My name is Bernadette Lally. My address is 11 Alcott Street in Alston. I live down the street from this.
Mhm.
I am in total support of Dwan, number one, and of this project. Dawn has impressed me with the training that she's gone through. I've had in-depth conversations with her on this. I've never heard anyone else tell me that they've gone through what she's gone through. I trust her and I know her, and that is huge because I don't know any of these other people that are trying to put marijuana places in our neighborhoods. I'm happy that there's parking on site, and I grew up here. I've lived here my whole life. The Lincoln Bar, which was across the street, was not a very nice place. So this is a huge improvement in the way I look at it. I hope that you approve this. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next we have Mimi Wu. Is Mimi Wu on the call? No. Next we have Matt Capel. Is Matt on the call? Those are all the people that signed up in the chat. Is there anybody else that would like to speak in support or opposition for this proposal? Seeing none, the board will take this matter under advisement.
Thank you so much.
You're
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, we're gonna go a little out of order and call our old and new business. We have a open meeting law complaint, Reed versus BCB. Chairwoman Joyce.
Thank you. I want to take this out of turn because Commissioner Holmes is going to recuse herself from the following, the last application, but we received an open meeting law complaint, and the board requested an extension from the Attorney General's office, which we were granted that extension until September 15th in order to allow us to meet. It's common practice for a board like us to vote to defer the open meeting law complaint to Corporation Counsel to respond on our behalf. So I would like to make a motion to defer this open meeting law complaint to Corporation Counsel to respond on our behalf. Jasmine, did I get everything on the record that we need to get on the record regarding this?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the vote I'm asking for, to defer our response to Corporation Counsel.
Is there a second?
Do I have a?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
On the record.
Thank you all.
So we're gonna call our last item, as Commissioner Joyce mentioned, Commissioner Holmes is recusing herself from this matter. So we have Boston Urban Dispensary LLC. The proposed license premises 1112 to 1118 Blue Hill Avenue in Dorchester. They're applying for a recreational cannabis dispensary license. The hours of operation is Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. This is a non-equity applicant. The date of initial application is December 18th, 2019. Date of filing with Inspectional Services, December 18th, 2019. And the date of the community meeting was October 1st, 2020. And there is a buffer zone conflict. Who is all present on behalf of the licensee?
Ed Alicia.
Is it just you, or is your partner here too?
Hopefully he's in, he's having a problem with his business, labor. So
Okay.
he was supposed to be on. I'm hoping he still can chime in.
Okay, do you want to share your screen and begin your presentation?
Sure. I'm gonna give it a shot here. I have no idea what this is. I apologize.
You just hit the share screen.
Yep.
And it should let you share it.
Okay, it worked earlier.
If not, I can do it as well if you feel more comfortable with me doing it.
Yeah, I'll try one more time.
Okay.
Here. Open person. I got an old laptop. It was working earlier. I don't know what happened. Yeah, if you can share it, I apologize.
Okay. Yep. No, let me pull it up 1 second. Can you see that okay? Edwin?
Yes, I can see it. Thank you so much.
Okay, so you can begin. And let me know when you want me to move forward.
Sure, we can go to the next slide.
Okay.
Oh, and it's our vision is furthering our cause, and the most important goal of our organization is we seek to support, empower, and provide high quality resource to our community in a safe and secure environment. Our success is measured in terms of wealth, not measured in terms of wealth, or profit margin, but the value we provide to those who we serve in our communities. Next. So this is who we are. I'm Edwin Eddie Alice. I'm the Chief Operating Officer. I'm co-owner of Bud, financial investor. I grew up in the city. Ivan is also owner of the building, the administrator, co-owner of Bud, and also owns currently Boston Auto Design. That's what's in their property right now. Norma Ayala Leon is our Director of Compliance and Security, former Deputy Superintendent, Boston Police Department. She's here with us today. She also grew up in Roxbury and lives in all areas of Boston. Next, please. So our experience, 25 years plus of real estate ownership, management, and small business ownership, 25 plus years expertise in the areas of retail operation, construction, customer, and community service, 30 plus years of business owners grew up in, worked in, invested in, and live or lived in the city of Boston and existing neighborhoods. Next, please. So this is the proposed location. So that's the front view, and that's the parking side of the property. It's over 4,000, well, almost 5,000 square feet of ground level retail space, almost 6,000 of outdoor parking space for a total of almost 10.5 square feet of usable space. And it's easily accessible by several public transportation bus routes. And we have the bus stop right in front of our location. Next, please. So our operations are 7 days a week, Monday through Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m., Sundays, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. We have order ahead and line management, so ID check-in area can hold 30 or 40 customers in queue. Online pre-ordering options and advanced fulfillment will help ease with vehicle traffic. And then website online fulfillment area will also help with the easement of customer traffic. Off-street and sidewalk pedestrian waiting lines within parking lot perimeter and side entrance, minimizing sidewalk traffic to no waiting line on sidewalk, minimizing pedestrian obstruction. So if you see the blue zones there, the grid that's along the side, on the right-hand side, that's our queue line. It's right on our property. Of course, we'll have trash containers checked and emptied on a daily basis throughout interior and exterior of the vicinity. Next, please. So this is a view of the interior. This is what we're trying to propose and go for. Nice, simple, and easy. Next style, please. And that's also a view of what we're proposing. So if you see the parking lot right there, the queue line, it's a little on the right hand side. There's a little square. That's the main entrance, and we'll have a queue line there, and it'll be on another picture. The left side part is a bodega. We're going to keep the bodega there. We're definitely into our community, and is a great retail partner. Next, please. So transportation and parking. So for flow management, we got separate lines for online pickup orders, as well as off-street numbered parking spaces for online pickup orders to make everything a lot easier for the patrons, and also again to not create sidewalk congestions. Parking availability. We have 14 private off-street non-shareable parking spaces within our business. We have 2 dedicated handicap accessible parking spaces, and we also have 4 to 5 off-street or on-street parking space in front of the building. Additional measures will be good patron pledge. If you double park, you're just not going to be served, and we encourage transit and ride sharing. And these are the buses. So we got about 4 buses. Actually, it's more buses, bus routes, but these are the closest that will come up on both sides of Blue Hill Avenue. So there's definitely a lot of foot traffic relief from the bus service, and also the Fairmont, and that's the train commuter rail, which is also down the street pretty much. Next, please. So this is a view. It's very low key, no advertisements in the front, or pretty much anywhere. It will probably have a small advertisement. Would be just store hours, or maybe right on the vestibule, which is inside. So that's the front view and the side view. And this is what I was saying earlier, is the patrons off-street parking lot that we have with patron entrance right there at the vestibule on your left-hand side of the little green car, and the perimeter waiting line, which you see all roped off. So that's about a 4-foot line that's going all the way across around the parking perimeter. So we can probably fit about, I would say probably 100 patrons there if we needed to. But because we also have indoor waiting areas, entrance and on the right-hand side of the building, so we can keep them off the exterior as well. We can keep them waiting inside. Next, please. So where security, Mike is on, I believe he's on, or will be on. He will be handling our personnel, security personnel. family-owned person of color security company. He's an outstanding businessman in our community, and I'll let him discuss his business right after the presentation.
4 minutes left.
Okay, next please. Okay, so security and protocol safety. These are pretty much all the standards that we're going to apply to. Definitely access, nobody under 21 will be allowed. Definitely private security and our own security will be on site. We will share emergency policies and procedures for diversion, theft, or we'll have for theft and loss, and we'll also have close coordination with Boston Police and Fire. And product safety, it will be seed to sell. We'll be have the scan. Everything will be scanned, so we'll have everybody's information for the last person that bought. And if there's any loitering or any getting, dumping of any of the scanned products, we'll know who did it, and we'll deal that accordingly. And of course, the 15 security cameras all throughout the location, lighting, and windows will all be glazed, so you can't see inside business. Next, please. Community impact hiring, we're up to 20 permanent full part-time jobs, probably better standard living wage. Say 15, 16 is pretty much the current, but hopefully we can do a lot better as soon as we can open up and analyze what's going on. Full benefits for our employees, of course. 60-70% local residents or more if possible. 80% of Boston residents, 51% women, 60% people of color, which will probably be a lot more that we're all hoping for. People with disability, LGBT, that'll be prioritized. Collaboration with the mayor's office, of course, and mass hires, local newspapers to hire. We definitely, very first and near passion to us is agreeing on a fund up to $50,000 right after the first year to hopefully help community organizations around our local establishment. And that also applies to funds given to like non-profit, for-profit, not for-profit, but the kids that come by and need to set up community events that are not non-profit. Product and employment educational training, and that's for career investment. We'll have that investment. Work environment will encourage employee volunteerism, of course, because I like to volunteer, and we definitely will have a business owner, community members, and city through on-site quarterly business meetings. Next, please. Diversity inclusion plan, employee gender. This is for pretty much a measurement plan. We'll try to keep with the Cannabis board is pretty much let you know what's going on. Disabled status of employees, number of jobs created, where jobs were classified, posted, by whom, number of employees coming in, coming out, diversity, implicit biases, sensitive training, and number of employees that volunteer, internal work advancement training and programs, and job investments. We'll keep you posted. Next,
1 minute left.
Okay. And this is supported community. We have over 200 support signatures. I went and got those myself. It was an awesome few days meeting everybody in the community. And those are the people that we want to support as well. And 20 plus immediate local business. Those are the businesses right around our area, right around the location. They were great people, and we had some good discussions. WANA, Woodrow Ave, neighborhood associations, we get support letter. We're waiting for the other two groups, but Nina has been an outstanding supporter, and we appreciate it. And we got a letter of non-opposition from Boston City Councilor Andrea Campbell. Next, please. Thank you so much. I think we made it. Questions?
Yep, just in time.
We tried.
Chairwoman Joyce, do you have any questions for the applicant?
I do. Again, this is an application that's within the buffer zone. So as chair of the board, I just would like to give you an opportunity to explain how this application meets the requirements of why we would pierce the buffer zone. And I know you submitted a statement, which I'm trying to pull up, but if you could take a couple of grab that for the board, I'd appreciate that.
So first of all, when we applied, there was no other set company. So what sets us apart is that we went to actual meetings prior to making a decision on this property. And we heard what the complaints were, and the complaints were sidewalk obstructions. So we tackled that sidewalk obstructions by having a perimeter queue line perimeter inside of our parking lot, which definitely does not give any obstructions or obstructs pedestrians' daily flow. Traffic parking problem was a huge problem in almost every meetings that we've been to. That was always a big deal. So we have 16 private non-shared spots on our property right off the main street. So it makes it easy in, easy out. And also we like I said before, it's not a shareable parking spot. So that's pretty good for us. And the building itself, if you see it in the slide, is very low key, non-advertising. So that was an issue with the kids, not trying to advertise to kids or anything. So we just said, if we're good customer service, we'll create our own customer base, and we don't need to advertise outside fancy letterings or whatever to anybody, adults included. So that keeps us off the pretty much advertising to kids by mistake. And we have a passion. We have a passion to help the community. So we like to set a fund up to $50,000 to help everybody, the communities around us, those associations that need constant help, that don't get help from the cities. And those is one of the things that we've also ran into at community meetings that I observed, actually. We are a 100% minority-owned company, grown, community grown. I know that, we can be a prime example of how we can coexist with another minority group in the area. That's our goal, is to be an example of how we can work together, and the community can enjoy the fruits of our hard work and our labor. We also, we're the only we're the only investors. I'm the investor, financial investor, and so really putting thought to this is that I was blessed that I can do this. So excuse me, I just need some water.
It's hot.
Sorry about that. So that means that we don't have to give back investment sharing. So any investments, any profits that we have, it would just be easier for us to share with our employees and share with our community. It just makes it a lot easier funding that community fund. We have more than 40 routes, MBTA routes that I spoke about earlier, and that's giving us a fair balance of patrons to all the businesses that are there as far as foot traffic goes. Also, it's going to be tough for most of us minorities that can manage to be able to try to and work in the cannabis business, open up a cannabis business without having a buffer zone infraction. And I hope that we can, technically, that you guys can consider all these points and hopefully grant us a conditional approval. Thank you so much.
If I could interject.
Mhm.
Hi. So my name's Norma Ayala Leong. I am going to be security compliance officer, but one of the things I do want to mention, and I'm not sure about the other businesses, we have a very, very secure building where it's brick, and we have a private rear entrance that is not going to be open to the public. We will be bringing our product in that area, that we're going to have cameras all over the place, and that I think that will distinguish us from the other business, and that it is it's going to be a very safe way to bring our product in. And we would be doing it at different times so that we don't have any sort of set schedule. But I think that's another point that I wanted to make as far as the security aspect of it.
Okay.
Any other questions, Chairwoman Joyce?
No, I mean, this is what we see sometimes. The equity applicants they might file later, but because of their equity status, they often appear on our agenda before the non-equity applicant.
Commissioner Sangia?
Thank you. I just had one question. Mr. Alicea, you mentioned something about employee profit sharing. Is that something that you have in mind? Kind of how would that work? And
We definitely do, and we spoke about it. And quite honestly, the reason that it should work for us is because I'm the only investor with Ike, so just us two. So that hopefully will free up funds that we can create these type of funds. We can create funds for, with, of course, the work of the administrators, so we can get together in the community groups that we want to have quarterly meetings, can have some type of advisory board and have some people just so how we can handle and hopefully our employees of number one and our communities number two, because we want to keep everybody happy. Everybody else is number three and so on and so forth. But yes, we want to, since we don't have to share investments with any other investors, that is our goal, is to whatever we make, and we're hoping that it stays true to what the businesses are doing. Because with 50 plus cannabis stores being open throughout the city, we don't know what these numbers are going to be. So I don't want to overpromise and underperform. So by all means, anybody that knows me personally, I love to volunteer. I volunteer in the community, and I like to give back. So that is one of our number one goals, is to definitely profit share with our employees and our community investors. Yes, for sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes, thanks. Just one question. You said up to 20 permanent, full and part-time jobs. How many of them are part-time?
Again, we don't realize, depending on the patron flow, my goal is to have as many full-time as possible, or as many employed as possible from around the locations, from our area. And I kind of have a list from the supporters when they were signing signatures that hey, keep me in mind. I want to work with you. So I have a little list of people that over 21 that want to work. I want to employ as many as possible, give as many opportunities as possible. And if half of them has to be part-time in order to employ a lot more, then we'll work definitely the HR end of it. Our goal is to train as many people, bring in as many people, teach as many people, certified as many people, even if they're not full-times, and if they want to be
certified in terms of
just an annual cannabis state. Okay. So we're not going to limit anybody who wants to go there. We'll pay for it. It's the same thing as T-passes. You know what? If they live in a location, they're walking into work, here's a T-pass. We don't have to deduct it from your pay. We don't have to worry about if you can make it in or not. It's just a lot of things that we would love to do. There's a lot of opportunities to do it. Like I said, I grew up right around there, Lucerne, then Callender Street and off of Woodrow Ave. And then I right up on Norfolk Street. So I know what it is to walk over to the corner of Norfolk and Morton and try to get one of those buses to Forest Hills or Eggleston back in the days, now Ruggle. And we used to walk. We used to walk from Norfolk all the way down to Eggleston Square. So by all means, I'm just trying to help as many people as we can and around that circle of our business. This would be an exciting thing to do if we do get approved. It's just an exciting thing for us to be able to finally get back.
And you're right across the street from the police station.
Yes. Yes.
You agree? When you say it's agreeable community donations, what do you mean by agreeable? Who has to agree?
Agreeable. Anybody that comes to our meeting, anybody that comes into our quarterly meetings, anybody that comes into that has a need that we can actually, it's a viable need, and that we can agree on a certain amount. Because what I'm trying to say is that it's not a set amount per nonprofit organization. It's not a set amount per person. It can be 2,000 for one group, 5,000 for another, 10,000 for another, depending on the need and the value that they're giving back to our community, the return that of their investment of labor that they're giving back to our community. So that's kind of what I mean by agreeable amongst us. And when I say us, I include myself in our community, amongst us people, amongst the people that we show up, sit at that table and iron out a plan for how we can definitely reinvest in our community. And that includes that includes also the associations that didn't give us support letters. It's all good. I mean, at the end of the day, not everybody's for cannabis, but not everybody's a bad person because they're not. So it's for everybody within our circle, within our community. That's what I mean.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. And as stated, Commissioner Holmes has recused herself. Chairwoman Joyce, any additional questions?
Not at this time, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Sangian? Okay. Commissioner. Next, we will move to public testimony, beginning with elected officials or representatives of elected officials.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. Dante Peoples here from the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. We would like to go on record in support of this proposal. There was a community meeting held on October 1st, 2020, which was attended by residents, community stakeholders, and representatives of local elected office, where again, the applicant did adequately address any issues or concerns on the call of abutters and neighbors. The applicant has also received a number of letters of support from local businesses in the area, many names from neighbors and abutters on support petitions, as well as support from the Woodrow Ave Neighborhood Association. Again, the mayor's office would like to go on record in support of this proposal. We ask that the applicant continue his outreach with the community as they move through the process. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dante. Any other elected officials or representatives of elected officials? So next we're gonna move to those who signed up via the link. I have Amy Barrett.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to talk with the board members. My name is Amy Barrett. I'm from Hanover, Mass, and I'm the founder and outreach manager for the nonprofit Kenya's Kids in Need. Today, I would like to say a few words regarding the character of Eddie Alisaya. Eddie is a man of great integrity. He is a man of his word and he follows through on what he says. Eddie also has an incredible heart for helping his neighbors in the community, the state, and even in the world. I know this firsthand as Mr. Alisaya has been instrumental in assisting Kenya's Kids in Need with fundraising, outreach, and in February 2020, traveling to Nairobi, Kenya to help hands-on with our development mission. Eddie is compassionate about being part of the solution and helping others near and far. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Next we have Sandy. I will not attempt your last name.
Higher-Bacher.
Higher-Bacher.
Nobody can pronounce it. Hi, everybody. So I live in Belmont, but I'm representing Evoke, which is the company that is opening a dispensary a stone's throw away at 1102 Blue Hill Ave. I'm the COO of that company. And just a few points I wanted to make. So, I mean, it's one thing to have a buffer zone conflict, but it's another to be 200 feet away from another dispensary. So it's a concern for us. Also, yeah.
So you're in opposition?
Yes.
I would, because you're at the competition stone's throw away.
Yeah.
If you could just wrap up your comments succinctly for us, we would assume you're opposed.
Okay. So a couple of points. I know you mentioned sidewalk obstructions. We're going to have a large waiting area, so that won't be an issue for us. You mentioned traffic and parking.
And we don't have to talk about your application. We don't talk about your application. We're here talking about the Boston Urban Dispensary application, and we have you down as opposed. So we're not comparing your application to their application. This isn't a second opportunity for you to discuss your application. I respectfully ask you just to explain what your comments have to do with this particular application. We're separating the two of them.
Yeah, it's hard for me to answer that question without bringing ours in. We have a lot of the same positive aspects to ours. So
Okay.
let me just say that, yeah, we're opposed, and I think it would be a hardship for us. So thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Shalar Armstrong.
Hey, it's Shalair Armstrong, Dr. Shalair Armstrong, 582 Washington Street in Dorchester, Mass. I just wanted to go on record to say that I also am opposed to that location, too close to the other location. So if I was sending my patients up there, it would cause confusion. And that's it. Dr. Shalair Armstrong, 582 Washington Street in Dorchester.
Thank you. Cleon Byron.
Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you guys. My name's Cleon Byron. I'm actually the CEO of the other dispensary on 1102 Blue Hill Ave. I just want to go on the record that I oppose it because it's too close, unfortunately.
Thank you.
And then we have Oswaldo Limas. You're on mute. Do you want to unmute yourself? It should be at the bottom left if you're on the.
I got you. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Good afternoon, Boston Cannabis board members and chairperson. I am designer of the bud establishment Boston Urban Design or Dispensary LLC. As the owner of Designs by Oz operating through the metropolitan Boston area. I would like to say something, a few words in support of Edwin Alicia, who I met 5-6 years ago to get a permit to host the Puerto Rican festival. Eddie is an honest community leader, as he had plenty of experience due to his past police officers' community service. He would make the perfect facilitator to run a well-organized, state-of-the-art cannabis established business, precisely because of his honesty and his integrity as the person that he is, which would trickle down to the surrounding community. I'm sure, given the opportunity to demonstrate his personal touch, he would no doubt make a great asset to the business and the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Devonta Davis.
Good afternoon. I would just like to go on record in opposition. I am the supply chain manager for Evoke. The dispensary is too close and it would be detrimental to our business. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in support or opposition of this proposal? Seeing no one else, that concludes our hearing. Again, the record will be open until Tuesday, September 21st, 5 p.m. We thank you all for joining us, and our voting meeting will take place next Wednesday at 1 p.m. And that information will be on our website tomorrow morning for access information. Thank you all for joining us, and that concludes the meeting.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.